On the playground, beneath the awakening steel, the formation of Class 5, Senior 3 buzzed with noise. Qin Shu, their head teacher, held up a registration book and raised her voice loud enough for all to hear. Li Hao, Warrior, Grade B Affinity. Grade B Warrior. You're insane, Hao. His best friend Wang Chung roared at the top of his lungs. A brief hush fell over the class before an even louder wave of chatter erupted. That's our third Grade B Awakener so far today. I'd be overjoyed if I only get Grade C. How awesome would a Grade S be? Ha ha ha. Quit daydreaming. Grade S talents are rarer than cabbages. Yi Wanqing, the school's most promising seedling, only awakened as a Grade A mage today, and that score ranks her among the top in Jiangqing. The noisy chatter washed over Lin Fan's ears. He stood toward the back of the line, his palms slick with cold sweat. It had been 8 years since the game world merged with reality, and 80% of the planet had become monster nests. Ordinary humans could only huddle inside safe zones, scraping by to survive. If he wanted a decent life, his only shot was the awakening ceremony on the day he came of age. A Grade C rating meant a monthly government stipend of 2,000 credits, enough to cover his younger sister Yaya's school fees and buy her 2 new sets of clothes. Next, Lin Fan. Lin Fan's Adam's apple bobbed as he stepped forward toward the steel. 1 second. 2 seconds. The steel did nothing. Lin Fan's heart sank. Could it be that he wasn't even an awakener at all? After a long moment, a faint gray glow finally seeped out across the steel's surface. A line of tiny text materialized above it. Lin Fan, Class, Thrower, Affinity Grade, D. Silence hung over the queue for 3 full seconds. Grade D, a thrower? That's practically the same as not awakening anything. Someone snickered without holding back. Head teacher Qin Shu sighed and marked a cross beside his name in the ledger. Lin Fan, go back to the line for now. A Grade D still counts as an awakener, don't lose heart. Lin Fan pulled his hand away, his stiff knuckles throbbing numb. He said nothing, staring at his feet as he trundled back to the formation. School let out. The run-down streets were pockmarked with craters, filled with stagnant black sewage. Lin Fan kicked loose gravel down the road as he walked. 3 years prior, his parents had answered the military conscription to head to the northern front lines, and not even a scrap of their bones had ever been sent home. Their survivor's pension had long run dry. Only he and his 7-year-old sister remained at home. He juggled 3 part-time jobs just to put food on the table. Yaya had reached school age, while their neighbor's boy Taiju already carried a school bag to class every day. He'd pinned every last hope on today's awakening. Now everything was ruined. He pushed open their tin sheet front door, hit by a mix of cooking fumes and steamed rice fragrance. The room was far too cramped to turn around in, yet spotlessly clean. Brother, Wang Yaya stood balanced on a small wooden stool, wielding a spatula, her round cheeks smudged gray from cooking smoke. She hopped down, carrying a plate of green vegetables over to the table. Wash your hands and eat quick. Aunt Wang gave us sweet potatoes today. I steamed them mixed into the rice. The table held just 1 dish, alongside 2 bowls of rough grain rice studded with sweet potato chunks. Yaya rested her chin in her palms and stared up at him. Brother, how did your awakening turn out? Lin Fan sat down at the table, forcing a bright tone. I awakened as a thrower. My job's just hurling things around. Wow. Then big guilds will definitely come hire you to fight monsters, right? Yaya's eyes lit up, clapping her hands excitedly. She had no idea what Grade D meant, nor that everyone mocked throwers as useless trash. Yaya, my grade is pretty low. I might not be able to send you to school for a while. Yaya was a sensible child. She spotted the sorrow in her brother's face and instantly dropped her grin. It's fine. I don't even like school. Taiju gets made to stand in the corner every single day. I can stay home and cook for you instead. To me, you're the strongest person alive. Lin Fan bowed his head, forcing the mouthful of coarse rice down his tight throat. His throat burned, and hot tears stung the back of his eyes. Night fell. His hard wooden bed creaked as Lin Fan tossed and turned, his mind stuck on that faint gray glow from the steel. He pulled up his system status panel and double-checked every stat repeatedly. Name, Lin Fan Class, Thrower Grade D Level, LV10 100s EXP Stamina, 5 Agility, 6+3 from Class Defense, 4 Attack, 4 HP, 50 Throwing Range, 10 meters Skills, none Talents, none. His fate was sealed. At the very least, he'd gained 3 extra points of agility. He could deliver takeout faster than regular people from now on. He moved his finger to the top right corner to close the panel. As he swiped, his fingertip slipped upward by accident. A nearly invisible line of dark gold text suddenly popped up at the very bottom of the screen. Hidden Talent. 100 Accuracy LV1 Effect. All thrown projectiles hit their target without fail within throwing range. Lin Fan shot bolt upright in bed. A hidden talent? Their awakening lectures had never once mentioned such a thing. Not even geniuses like grade A Yi Wanqing were rumored to possess hidden talents. His fingers trembled slightly as he tapped to view full details. Within throwing range, any target you aim to strike will be hit perfectly. He threw off his thin blanket and grabbed a ballpoint pen from the windowsill. Pushing the window open, he locked his gaze on an empty plastic bottle sitting in the alley below. He made no deliberate aim. He only fixed his eyes on the bottle and flicked his wrist. The pen slipped from his grasp and flew. Bang! A crisp crack echoed out. The pen's tip slammed dead center into the bottle, sending it rolling across the pavement, while the pen bounced off and landed a meter away. Lin Fan clung to the windowsill, staring rigidly at the 100 accuracy description. His knuckles whitened from how hard he squeezed the metal frame. A 10-meter throwing range, guaranteed hits every single time, no matter how fast or tiny the target was. This was only level 1. Once he hit level 10, level 20, his range would expand. This talent was utterly overpowered. No one could ever find out about this ability. He swung his legs over the bed, stepped out into the alley, and retrieved the pen and plastic bottle. A clear indentation left by the pen's tip marked the bottle's surface. Lin Fan twisted the bottle in his hand, glancing at the pile of scrap trash stacked in the alley corner. These discarded odds and ends were his scrap collection, one of the family's only sources of income. He tossed the plastic bottle casually toward the heap. It sailed perfectly into the deepest center of the trash pile. The next day, Lin Fan arrived at school with heavy dark circles under his eyes. He'd spent 2 hours throwing stones in the alley the night before, growing more elated by the minute, unable to stop. 3 glowing light portals hovered out of thin air in the center of the school's main playground. Green, blue, and purple, corresponding to low, mid, and high-tier dungeons respectively. Need a tank to soak damage. Any warriors around? Healer needed. Our damage dealers are all set. The playground rang with students shouting to form parties. These exclusive leveling dungeons were reserved for Senior 3 Awakener graduates. Each student got 3 free entries a day, available for a 3-day limited window. A special welfare the school offered new Awakeners. Everyone was a fresh LV1, and no one dared attempt a dungeon solo. Almost all students grouped up. Yi Wanqing slung her staff over one shoulder, ignored the party recruitment area entirely, and walked straight for the mid-tier blue portal. Grade A mage, starting out on a whole different level. She's backed by a major guild. She probably leveled up multiple times last night. No surprise she can clear mid-tier dungeons alone. Lin Fan stood off to the side, completely ignored by everyone. That suited him just fine. He couldn't risk exposing his hidden talent, so solo runs were his only option. Qin Shu spotted Lin Fan standing alone and walked over to give him a few reminders. Stay alert once you're inside. Exit immediately if you hit danger. Don't push yourself too far. Understood. Thank you, teacher. Lin Fan cut through the crowd and headed for the far left green low-tier portal. Murmurs followed him from behind. A grade D going in all by himself? He's got guts, I'll give him that. The moment he stepped through the portal, all the playground's noise vanished completely. A vast stretch of black, desolate wasteland spread before him, waist-high weeds swaying wildly in the wind. Dungeon name, Mutated Farm. Lin Fan didn't rush forward. He opened the system shop and navigated to the throwing weapons category. Pig Iron Dart Common, +2 attack power. Price, 10 copper coins each ever since the game Reality Fusion. Game copper coins converted 1-to-1 with real-world currency automatically. He selected Pig Iron Darts and set the quantity to 20. Ding. His entire account balance hit 0. 2 weeks' worth of living expenses traded for a pouch of metal scraps. He stretched his wrists loose, pushed through the weeds, and ventured deeper into the farm. He hadn't walked far when rustling noises came from the underbrush. A half-meter-tall gray-furred rabbit burrowed at the dirt, its body packed with bulging muscle, blood-red eyes bulging out of its skull. Scan target mutated rabbit LV2 attack, 6 defense, 2 HP, 80. Lin Fan ran quick calculations in his head. Base attack 4, +2 from his darts equals total 6 damage per hit. Against the rabbit's 2 defense, each dart dealt 4 HP damage. 80 divided by 4 equals 20 hits required. He carried exactly 20 darts. He couldn't waste a single one. Under normal circumstances, a rookie would burn through 200 darts trying to hit a moving target. But he held 100 accuracy. Lin Fan planted his feet firmly. Distance, 10 meters. 20 pig iron darts materialized cold and metallic in his palms. He flicked his left wrist, followed instantly by his right. 2 darts flew simultaneously. The mutated rabbit panicked, kicking its hind legs hard to dart sideways 2 meters. Yet the two thrown darts twisted along an unnatural curve mid-air. As if guided by eyes, they arced to strike exactly where the rabbit would land. Squelch! Both darts buried themselves fully into its skull. 4. Red floating damage numbers popped upward. The mutated rabbit screeched, charging straight at him with bloodshot eyes, kicking up clouds of dirt as it ran. Lin Fan didn't take a single step backward. His hands blurred in constant motion, pulling dart after dart from his backpack and hurling them nonstop. 8 meters away. 5 meters. 3 meters. The rabbit zigzagged left and right, yet every dart curved to track its path. It leaped into the air, and the darts shot upward to follow. Whistling streaks of metal sliced through the air one after another in a continuous flurry. Every single dart locked onto its target, sinking into flesh and sending droplets of blood flying. He released his final dart. It nailed the rabbit dead center in its neck. The monster collapsed less than half a meter from his feet, its limbs twitching twice before its HP bar emptied completely. Mutated rabbit slain. EXP plus 20. A surge of satisfaction washed over him. All 20 darts lines the trail the rabbit had run along. Lin Fan knelt down and tapped the loot all button. Each flying dart dissolved into white light and teleported back into his backpack. He walked a few steps forward, tapped again. Sifted through weeds for a full minute, tapped once more. Killing the monster took a mere dozen seconds. Retrieving his darts dragged on for a minute and a half. He had no spare money to buy more weapons. Recycling was his only choice. He rubbed his aching lower back, stood up, and ventured deeper into the farm. Find monsters, throw darts, kill targets, run to collect weapons. Detailed, repetitive, no shortcuts to speed things up. But watching his EXP bar climb bit by bit made the sore back completely bearable. When the 5th mutated rabbit fell dead, Lin Fan knelt to tap the loot button once more. A flash of golden light washed over his body. Level up, LV2 plus 1 unassigned free stat point throwing range increased to 15 meters. Lin Fan didn't hesitate for a second, dumping his single stat point straight into attack. His base attack rose to 5, plus his darts plus 2 bonus brought total attack power to 7. Against the rabbit's 2 defense, each dart dealt 5 damage. Only 16 darts were needed to kill one rabbit now, down from 20. His efficiency shot up drastically. Over half an hour later, he'd eliminated 4 more rabbits. Buzz. The dungeon time limit expired. White light wrapped around his body, forcing an emergency teleport out. Lin Fan reappeared back on the playground. A classmate named Zhao Chong was bragging loudly to his party, spraying spit everywhere. When he caught sight of Lin Fan out the corner of his eye, "Wow, you actually made it out alive." Someone standing beside him laughed. A grade D thrower, making it back in one piece is already a miracle for him. Zhao Chong clapped his teammates on the shoulders. "Come on, restock supplies, let's hit the dungeon a 3rd time." Lin Fan ignored their banter and pulled up his status panel. LV2 8200 EXP. 9 rabbits slain. Only 1 mutated rabbit pelt dropped as loot. Terrible efficiency, abysmal drop rates. He hadn't even cleared all the dungeon spawns in a full hour. If not for his 100 accuracy talent, he likely wouldn't have leveled up once today. But this was only the beginning. Lin Fan had no plans to stop grinding. He re-entered the dungeon a 2nd time. On his 2nd run through Mutated Farm, he moved with practiced ease. He pushed through waist-high weeds, locked onto his prey, and hurled 2 darts in tandem. 4. After several volleys, the mutated rabbit collapsed. Lin Fan had just lifted his foot to trudge into the weeds and retrieve his darts when his system panel popped open automatically. A line of dark gold text blazed across the screen. Hidden talent level up. Current talent level, LV20200 EXP Effect 1. All thrown projectiles hit their target without fail within throwing range. Effect 2. All dropped loot and thrown weapons auto-collect within throwing range. His talent could level up? Did each new talent rank unlock an extra ability? He shot straight upright and glanced down at his feet. The pig iron darts scattered all across the weeds were gone without a trace. His backpack inventory read, "Pig iron dart times 20, sitting neatly in its slot." No more manual looting required. Collecting weapons had always been the most annoying part of monster hunting. 12 seconds to kill a beast, 90 seconds crawling through grass to dig out darts. All his efficiency bottlenecks were gone now. Lin Fan spun around to track down his next target. The 2nd mutated rabbit. He planted his feet, drew back to maximum range, and unleashed all 20 iron darts in a single volley. The instant the rabbit hit the ground, scattered flying darts and dropped rabbit fur dissolved into tiny glimmers of light, teleporting straight into his backpack. Kill and move on instantly. The outer perimeter of the farm turned into an assembly line of slaughter. Lock target, hurl darts, eliminate foe, move to the next spawn. By the end of this run, he'd slain 12 rabbits. His last run had only netted 9 in a full hour. He dumped his new free stat point into attack again. Base attack hit 7, with the +2 weapon bonus. Total attack power reached 9. Only 14 darts were needed to kill one mutated rabbit, down from 20. Once the portal cooldown reset, he entered the dungeon again. He exited half an hour later, then re-entered once more. After completing all 3 daily free dungeon runs, the sun hung low in the western sky. Level: LV4 151,000 EXP throwing range, 25 meters attack. 7 Zhao Chong and his group still loitered by the portal entrance. When they spotted Lin Fan walking out, every single one stood up straight out of instinct. Zhao Chong parted his lips, ready to stride over and butter him up. Lin Fan didn't spare them a single glance, walking straight past and away. He left Zhao Chong and his friends staring blankly at each other, undisguised jealousy burning in their eyes. Across all 3 runs, he looted 6 stacks of rabbit fur and 4 rabbit pelts. The lowest tier crafting materials, worth almost nothing to most players, but to Lin Fan, they were a small fortune. He listed them at the minimum market price on the trade system, and players bought them out within seconds. Total earnings, 100 copper coins. To earn that much, washing dishes took 5 full days of backbreaking labor. Yet this amount was nowhere near enough. Only 3 free dungeon entries were available per day. That was the hard cap. Extra runs cost 500 copper coins per ticket, and he'd only earned 100 today. Without spare money for more entries, he had no choice but to head home. Dusk settled into full darkness. Lin Fan passed a braised food stall on the street corner. He spent 30 copper coins on a whole roasted chicken. Wrapping it tightly in oiled paper and tucking it against his chest, he pushed open his tin front door. Under a dim yellow light bulb, Wang Yaya sat at the table, gnawing a hard half-sweet potato. Her cheeks bulged out round. She sniffed the air the second the door creaked open. "Brother, what delicious food did you bring home?" She tossed the potato aside and hopped off her stool. Lin Fan set the oil paper parcel down on the table and unfolded it. A golden, glistening roasted chicken lay exposed. Yaya leaned all the way over the table edge, her eyes glued to the meat, unable to look away. "Roasted chicken? Brother, did we suddenly get rich?" She didn't dare touch it, only breathing in the savory aroma greedily. "I earned some coins fighting monsters." Lin Fan tore off a massive drumstick and handed it to her. "Eat up. We'll have meat every day from now on." "Thank you, brother." Yaya clutched the drumstick, too reluctant to take a bite for herself. She ripped off the largest chunk of meat, stood on tiptoes, and held it up to his mouth. "Brother, you eat the big piece." Lin Fan took a bite, rich savory oil flooding his mouth. He reached out and smoothed down Yaya's messy, unkempt hair. She was only 7, in her critical growing years. Basic schooling inside the safe zone cost 1,000 copper coins per semester. Not including daily cafeteria fees, grinding 3 free dungeons each day netted at most 400 coins over 3 full days. He was nowhere close to affording tuition. After Yaya fell asleep, Lin Fan leaned against the headboard and browsed the virtual game forum, searching for information on open-world wild dungeons. Scrolling to page 13, he spotted a thread marked with a bright red warning tag. "Abandoned suburbs outside city. Mutated rat hive death footage attached." 3 images accompanied the post. Black bloodstains strewn across wasteland grass, an iron sword snapped clean in 2, and torn leather armor. 5 parallel deep claw gashes were carved across a chest plate. The body text held only one sentence: "Mutated rat hive. Monsters range from LV3 LV5. Do not venture here. Death in this place is permanent." Comments below the post: "Rats travel in massive swarms. Stay far away. A grade C warrior lost an arm escaping last week. This spot's only for penniless risk-takers willing to gamble their lives." Lin Fan stared at the photo of the broken sword for several seconds, then closed the thread. Tomorrow, he'd finish all 3 free dungeon runs first, grind steadily to level 5, and boost his attack and throwing range further. Then he'd head outside the city walls in the afternoon. The next afternoon, his 3rd and final free dungeon run was drawing to a close. Level: LV5 82,000 EXP throwing range, 30 meters attack, 8. Each dart dealt 8 damage against the rabbit's 2 defense, so only 6 or 7 hits were needed to slay one beast. His grinding efficiency was night and day compared to the day of his awakening. Yet the EXP curve was growing steeper and steeper. Level 5 to level 6 required 2,000 EXP. Each rabbit only granted 20 EXP, meaning he'd have to kill 100 rabbits to rank up. 3 free dungeon entries yielded at most 40 rabbits per day. It would take 2.5 full days just to gain 1 level, far too slow. Lin Fan closed his status panel and walked down the dirt trail deeper into the dungeon. This was his last free run for the day. He hoped to find higher EXP monsters further in. Weeds grew up to his chest, severely limiting his line of sight. He slowed his footsteps, moving cautiously. A dull crash echoed from behind a dirt mound roughly 30 meters ahead. Not the soft rustling of rabbits. This sound was a violent impact. 2 wild trees as thick as human wrists snapped clean in half. Their canopies crashed into the weeds, sending swarms of insects buzzing into the air. A large dark shape burst out from behind the mound and crashed heavily onto the ground, shaking the earth beneath his feet. The creature rose to its full height. Dark crimson fur covered its bulging, misshapen muscles, its front claws glinting cold as forged iron. It stood as large as a young calf, 3 times bigger than a regular mutated rabbit. Scan target mutated rabbit king LV5 attack, 20 defense, 3 HP, 220 attack power. Lin Fan's maximum HP only hit 50. A single hit would drain most of his health bar. 3 strikes would force an emergency teleport out and leave him inflicted with a 7-day debuff of extreme physical weakness. 7 full days without income. How would Yaya eat? On top of that, he'd waste his final run. He made the split-second decision to exit immediately. His finger brushed the edge of his system panel, tapping the confirm exit button without hesitation. Roar! The Rabbit King had spotted him. It slammed its front paws into the ground and launched its body straight at him. Its speed was twice that of an ordinary mutated rabbit. It was too late. Exiting required a 3-second cast time, and the beast wouldn't wait. Lin Fan pushed hard off his feet, sliding backward and sideways. The instant he put distance between them, his hands flew upward. 2 darts slipped free. They curved mid-air, doggedly tracking the Rabbit King's movement before burying themselves in its dark red fur. 7. Racked by pain, the Rabbit King's screech grew even more ferocious, and it sped up further. Leveraging his 30-meter throwing range, Lin Fan sprinted circles around the earthen mound. He pulled darts from his backpack and hurled them non-stop as he ran. Every dart ignored awkward angles and distance, sinking unerringly into the Rabbit King's body. 7. Strings of red damage numbers floated upward. The Rabbit King's torso bristled with iron darts, looking just like a hedgehog. Yet its health bar had only dropped to half, 60 out of 200 HP. He still needed another 60 damage points. Lin Fan flicked his right hand, but no dart flew out. He was out of ammo. All 20 Iron Pig darts had been fired. His backpack sat empty. He grasped at thin air, finding nothing. All 20 pig iron darts were embedded in the monster's flesh. Until the creature died, the darts were not classified as loot. His auto-loot talent would not activate. He was completely out of ammunition. The Rabbit King kept charging after him. Its bloodshot red eyes locked firmly onto his figure, and the scraping of its claws against the dirt drew closer by the second. To cast the dungeon exit spell, he had to stand motionless for 3 full seconds. There was no chance to pause with the beast closing in so fast. If he forced the cast, a single swipe of its claws would cut his HP in half, and 2 hits would kill him outright. Worse still, if he failed to retrieve the 20 darts, 200 copper coins would be wasted. Lin Fan's peripheral vision caught a slope covered in loose gravel beside the mound. Rocks. Stones counted as thrown projectiles too. He twisted sharply and sprinted toward the gravel slope. Lin Fan planted a foot on the slope. The terrain rose steeply beneath him, littered with stones of all sizes. One misstep, and he would slip and fall. He bent down and snatched 2 fist-sized rocks in each hand. Spinning around, he tossed both stones forward without bothering to aim. His hidden talent activated instantly. The 2 stones whistled through the air, bending sharply mid-flight, hurtling straight for the Rabbit King's skull. Smack! Smack! The stones slammed against its dark red pelt and shattered into fine dust on impact. 0 damage dealt. Stones were not classified as weapons and possessed no base attack power whatsoever. They could not even break the beast's fur, let alone pierce its 3 defense stat. The Rabbit King froze for half a second, a low growl rumbling in its throat. This human had stopped throwing hidden weapons and resorted to rocks. It scraped its claws violently against the ground, sending sprays of mud flying. Its massive body accelerated once more, moving 30% faster than before. It opened its blood-drenched jaws and pounced straight for Lin Fan. 9 meters. 7 meters. A putrid stench mixed with soil assailed his nostrils. He could deal no damage. His backpack was empty, and the monster drew nearer every heartbeat. Lin Fan scrambled backward as fast as he could. His mind raced a mile a minute. Rocks were useless against the Rabbit King and could not replace his darts. Lin Fan's gaze sharpened, locking onto one pig iron dart embedded halfway into the Rabbit King's left shoulder. Its metal handle stuck out exposed. What if he targeted the dart's handle? He skidded to an abrupt halt and scooped up 2 more stones from the ground. Come on! Gritting his teeth hard, he hurled his right-hand stone. It did not aim for the Rabbit King's head. Instead, it crashed dead center into the exposed metal handle of the embedded dart. Bang! The tremendous impact jolted the dart clean out of the monster's flesh. As the dart fell toward the ground, it dissolved into a wisp of white light and vanished instantly. Lin Fan's status panel trembled faintly at his wrist. Pig Iron Dart +1 it worked. Once the darts hit the ground, the system marked them as loot, triggering his automatic collection ability. The stone in his left hand flew immediately after. Bang! A second dart was knocked loose, falling and vanishing in a flash of white light. Returning to his backpack, he recovered 2 darts in an instant. Instead of retreating, Lin Fan advanced a step. He twisted both wrists simultaneously, hurling the 2 newly recovered darts once again. 2 streaks of dark metal sliced through the air, tracking the Rabbit King's every movement before slamming hard into its chest. 7. Screaming in agony, the Rabbit King's forward charge faltered. Seizing this brief opening, Lin Fan slid 2 steps back and grabbed a handful of loose gravel off the slope. He tossed the gravel to knock free more darts stuck in the Rabbit King's body. The darts hit the ground, teleported back to his inventory, and he hurled them right back to bury themselves in the beast's flesh once more. The gravel slope had become an infinite ammunition supply for him. 3rd round. 4th round. The Rabbit King was no fool. On his 5th cycle of retrieving darts, it suddenly changed course. Abandoning its pursuit of Lin Fan, it circled around the low embankment beside the gravel slope to cut off his escape route. The distance shrank to under 5 meters in the blink of an eye. Lin Fan had just grabbed a rock in his right hand to throw when his foot slipped. Loose gravel shifted under his feet, sending him stumbling backward 1 full step. The Rabbit King swiped a paw straight down at him, fetid wind washing over his face. He threw himself hard to the left, rolling across the rough ground. The beast's claw sliced through the air half an inch above his head, sending gravel spraying everywhere. It had missed him by barely half a body's width. As he rolled, he hurled the rock he clutched, striking the exposed metal handle of another dart embedded in the Rabbit King's chest. Bang! The dart bounced free, flickering white as it returned to his backpack. Lin Fan scrambled back to his feet, pulled the recovered dart from his inventory, and pushed off hard to create more distance before launching the dart. 7. 42 out of 200 HP. This dart buried itself deep in the joint of the Rabbit King's hind leg, drastically slowing its sprint speed. Lin Fan gritted his teeth and repeated the cycle relentlessly. Knock darts loose, retrieve them, hurl them. When the final 2 blood-stained pig iron darts pierced the Rabbit King's neck, the thick-skinned colossus stiffened completely. It stumbled forward 2 wobbly steps before crashing heavily into the tangled weeds. Its limbs twitched twice, then fell motionless. Mutated Rabbit King LV5 slain. EXP plus 200. Its corpse dissolved into white light and vanished, leaving 2 items behind on the dirt. A tiny blue treasure chest and fangs. White light flickered, and the chest, fangs, and all 20 pig iron darts were automatically deposited into his backpack. Lin Fan sank down onto the ground. Those 5 minutes of combat had drained him completely. He gasped for breath, not daring to linger any longer. He raised a finger and clicked to exit the dungeon. After teleporting back to the playground, Lin Fan walked behind a row of camphor trees lining the edge of the grounds. Squatting in a secluded corner, he pulled open his status panel. Name, Lin Fan. Class, Thrower Grade D level. LV5 280/2000 EXP Strength, 5 Agility, 6+3 from Class Defense, 4 Attack, 8 HP, 50 Throwing Range, 30 meters. Hidden Talent, Perfect Mechanism LV 298 out of 200 Proficiency Effect 1. All visible targets within throwing range are hit 100 of the time. Effect 2. All loot and thrown weapons within range are automatically collected. He only needed a little over 100 more proficiency points to reach talent level 3. If the first 2 tiers were this overpowered, what new ability would the third unlock? Lin Fan closed his stats page and opened his backpack. The blue treasure chest sat in the first slot. He tapped open. A burst of blue light exploded outward. Obtained equipment. Flowing Cloud Rabbit Gloves blue tier stat bonus. Agility plus 12. Lin Fan's breath hitched. 12 extra agility points. His base agility was only 6 at present. These gloves tripled his total agility, bringing it up to 18 points in total. Agility boosted both movement speed and attack speed. Before, straining his limits, he could throw 1 dart per second with a single hand, 2 per second with both hands. Tripling his agility meant 6 darts per second now. He extracted the gloves and slipped them on immediately. The gloves glowed faintly, weightless against his skin. Every bend of his fingers moved with absurd smoothness. He clattered his fist to test them. His entire body felt far lighter. A tiny push off his toes sent him leaping a wide stride forward. They were incredible. His gaze shifted to the second backpack slot. Pair of mutated Rabbit King fangs. The system had not even provided a description for them. Items dropped by a boss monster were guaranteed to sell for a high price. Instead of letting them take up inventory space, he would convert them to cash. Lin Fan opened the global chat channel, enabling anonymous mode, and sent a message. Anonymous player, 1 pair of mutated Rabbit King fangs. DM me with offers if interested. Less than 5 seconds after posting, his private message panel blew up. Buddy, I'll take the Rabbit King fangs for 300 copper coins. Trade right now. Brother, would you sell for 400? My class advancement quest requires this material. 500 copper coins, I beg you to sell them to me. I desperately need them to temper my weapon. No haggling, add me. 500 copper coins. Lin Fan did not hesitate and replied to the last sender. After deducting transaction fees, he gained 495 copper coins. Combined with the earnings from selling rabbit pelts and fur earlier, his total income for the day hit 680 copper coins. Lin Fan clenched his fist and closed the panel. He lifted his head to find dusk settling fast. The playground stood empty, dim yellow lights spilling from a handful of street lamps. His 3 free daily dungeon entries were all used up. It was time to head somewhere new. Lin Fan walked out of the school gates, heading toward the city outskirts. He had saved a screenshot of that warning forum post. A mutated rat den in the abandoned suburbs outside the city walls, teeming with monsters. Lin Fan scanned a shared blue bicycle and pedaled north along the crumbling roads. Over an hour later, he arrived at the abandoned outer suburbs. This place had once been a massive open-air football stadium built for professional matches. The main gate was long gone, and most of the spectator stands surrounding the field had collapsed, exposing bare steel and concrete. The central pitch was overgrown with blackened weeds. The field sank low in the middle, ringed with rubble, forming a natural circular pit. Scuttling, rustling noises echoed from every direction, punctuated by shrill squeaks that sent a chill down his spine. Lin Fan did not rush inside. Wild outdoor zones offered no safety respawn mechanics. Death here meant permanent death. He had only survived the Rabbit King earlier by using the gravel slope to trigger automatic collection. Charging into a rat nest now meant he could not rely on luck alone. He pulled open his system panel and navigated to the shop. Pig Iron Dart Common Tier, 10 copper coins each. He set the purchase quantity to 40. He held exactly 750 copper coins, all his savings from selling monster materials these past few days. He confirmed the purchase. Ding. 400 copper coins were deducted from his balance. It pained him to spend it, yet the investment was necessary. Combined with his original 20 darts, he now carried 60 total. 60 pig iron darts would suffice against most monsters unless he encountered one with an absurdly massive health pool. Lin Fan avoided the collapsed spectator stand rubble. After circling the stadium, he settled on an open clearing near the stadium entrance. The field of vision here was unobstructed, flat ground stretching dozens of meters in every direction without a single large boulder for cover. Rats loved ambushing prey. This open clearing minimized the risk of surprise attacks, making it relatively safe. He planted his feet firmly and held his breath. Within minutes, the weeds behind a broken concrete pipe to his right front rustled violently. A black rat the size of a small dog scurried out, its fangs razor-sharp, reeking of stagnant sewer muck. Its crimson eyes locked straight onto him. He cast scan on the creature. Mutated rat LV3 attack, 10 defense, 6 HP, 80. Its defense stat was shockingly high, 3 points higher than the level 5 Rabbit King. Lin Fan quickly ran the numbers in his head. His base attack was 8, plus an extra 2 from his darts for a total of 10 attack power. Subtract the rat's 6 defense, and each dart would only deal 4 damage. 80 HP meant 20 darts per rat kill. This monster did not have an overwhelming amount of health, but its hide was unbelievably tough. The mutated rat scraped its front claws against the dirt, pushed off with its hind legs, and launched its bulky body straight at him. Lin Fan stood his ground without taking a single step back and raised both hands. Empowered by his flowing cloud rabbit gloves, He twisted both wrists outward at once. Pig iron darts flew forth in a rapid flurry, the whistling of their flight blending into a single continuous roar. 6 darts launched from his hands every second. His 100 accuracy talent activated, letting the darts ignore distance and angles to sink unerringly into the mutated rat's skull. 4, 4, 4. Strings of red damage values floated upward. The mutated rat froze mid-charge, only halfway across the clearing. All 20 darts buried deep in its torso. It did not even get a chance to thrash, letting out a single wail before crashing heavily to the ground. Mutated rat slain. EXP plus 30. No sooner had the first rat fallen than the silent, abandoned stadium erupted with noise. Scraping sounds echoed from every crack beneath the stands, behind broken plastic seats, and within tangled weed thickets. Swarms of dark silhouettes emerged from all sides, at the very least, dozens of rats. They all twisted their bodies to charge straight for Lin Fan's clearing, the ground trembling faintly beneath their stampede. Lin Fan spun sharply, pushing hard with his legs to retreat as far from the stadium as possible. With 18 agility points, the wind howled in his ears as he ran. His speed let him perfectly control the rats' sprint range. As long as he kept them within his 30-meter throwing radius, they were trapped in his killing zone. While maintaining distance, his hands never stopped moving. He unleashed all 60 pig iron darts in a single volley. With dozens of targets to aim for, 60 darts perfectly handled 3 rats simultaneously per cycle. The instant any mutated rat stepped within range, the thrown darts locked onto them automatically. 4, 4, 4. The front line of charging rats collapsed one after another. The rats behind them never slowed their pace, continuing their relentless advance. His 100 auto-loot ability recovered every dart the second a rat died, sending streaks of white light teleporting the metal weapons straight back to his backpack. His hands never needed to pause. The system materialized recovered darts directly into his palms. Throw, hit, collect, repeat. Combat devolved into a seamless, unbroken assembly line. Lin Fan did not even need to count his dart stock. As long as living targets remained in sight, his supply of projectiles would never run dry. A 1 versus dozens tug-of-war battle had begun. Lin Fan retreated 2 steps, unleashing a full volley of darts. He backed 5 steps, firing 3 volleys in succession. Dozens of dark dart streaks crisscrossed the open clearing. The moment one rat was pinned dead to the dirt, its darts flew back to his hands to be hurled at the next target. This cat-and-mouse grind dragged on for a full hour. Lin Fan retreated all the way to a dirt road a kilometer away from the stadium before the remaining dozen rats finally halted their pursuit. They seemed unwilling to stray too far from their territory, circling in place twice before turning and scurrying back toward the stadium. Silence settled back over the wilderness. Lin Fan stopped beside the dirt road, gasping heavily and shaking his sore wrists. An hour of nonstop high-intensity combat had completely drained his stamina. He sat down against a dry dead tree trunk by the roadside and pulled open his panel to check his gains. Name, Lin Fan. Class, Thrower, Grade D level. LV5 1780/2000 EXP attack. 8 HP. 50 hidden talent. Perfect mechanism LV2 148 200s proficiency. He had killed a full 50 mutated rats. His EXP had surged by 1500, leaving him barely short of level 6. His hidden talent proficiency was only 52 points away from the next upgrade tier. His last talent unlock had granted full automatic loot collection. What new power awaited him this time? Lin Fan clenched his fist, his knuckles cracking softly. He opened his backpack inventory. Aside from the 60 pig iron darts that had teleported back automatically, 10 off white mutated rat fangs lay quietly in one slot. The drop rate was truly abysmal. Only 10 fangs from 50 rat kills. He opened the player trading market, searched the base price for similar monster materials, and listed his fangs immediately. Price, 30 copper coins per fang. He barely hit the confirm button before a system notification popped up less than 3 seconds later. Ding. Item successfully sold. 300 copper coins received after transaction fee deduction. Lin Fan slapped his thigh in surprise as he read the earnings alert. They had sold instantly. He had vastly underestimated market demand. He would set a higher price next time. He stood up and brushed dust off his trousers. He had earned more than enough for the day. Wild monster zones were an endless source of income. As long as he could sustain his stamina, he could camp out here for days and never worry about money again. He located the shared bicycle he'd left in a roadside ditch and scanned the code to unlock it. Lin Fan pedaled fast on the ride back. When he passed the Eastern City Market, he slammed on the brakes, stopping in front of a braised meat shop he had never dared even glance at before. He spent 30 copper coins to buy a full jean of steaming spiced beef. The fragrant meat aroma seeped through the oiled paper wrapping against his clothes. Yaya loved meat more than anything. In past years, she only got to taste a few slivers once a year during the Lunar New Year. Whenever they had any tasty food, the little girl always saved the best portions for him. Bringing an entire pack of beef home today would make her leap for joy around their tiny house. Lin Fan rode his bike with a light heart, a spark of hope burning bright inside his chest. Dawn had barely broken when Lin Fan arrived at the school playground. Today marked the final day of free dungeon access for Senior 3 students. He stroked his chin as he stood before the dungeon portals, briefly considering trying his luck in the mid-tier dungeon before dismissing the thought entirely. It was not worth the effort. Mid-tier dungeon monsters took ages to kill, granted barely more EXP, and rarely dropped sellable crafting materials. 2 resources were what he needed most right now: copper coins and hidden talent proficiency points. Having settled on his plan, he turned and stepped through the green low-tier light portal. Mutated Farm. A 30-meter throwing range, 18 agility points, plus his flowing cloud rabbit gloves. Combat here was nothing like the grueling struggles of 2 days prior. Lin Fan waded straight into the waist-high weeds to hunt monsters proactively, his footsteps so light they made no sound against dead fallen leaves. The moment a red enemy name appeared in his line of sight, he twisted his wrists and unleashed rapid volleys of pig iron darts. Instant kill. Move on to the next target. In 30 minutes, he wiped out all 40 respawned mutated rabbits inside the dungeon before its automatic reset timer hit 0. Level up? LV6580/4000 EXP as always. He poured his single free stat point into attack, raising his base attack to 9. He teleported out of the portal and immediately re-entered for his second free run. He only needed 12 more kills to level up his hidden talent. Lin Fan counted silently as he ran, ticking off a mental tally with every dart thrown. 7, 8, 9, 12. The final 2 darts buried themselves in the neck of a plump mutated rabbit. The second the beast collapsed, his system panel forced itself open, a line of dark gold text blazing dead center across his vision. Hidden talent level up. Hidden talent. Perfect mechanism LV30500's proficiency effect 1. All thrown projectiles hit targets 100 within throwing range. Effect 2. All loot and thrown weapons within throwing range are automatically collected 100 of the time. Effect 3. All kills guarantee 100 item drops. Lin Fan's eyes flew wide, freezing rigidly in place. A guaranteed 100 drop rate on every kill? He read that line of text 3 times over. Every individual word was familiar, yet together they felt utterly surreal. Rabbit pelts and fur normally only dropped around 10% of the time. Unlucky players would grind an entire day without a single drop, flooding the forums with furious complaints that the system had hidden drop rates from them. Now every single kill was guaranteed to drop loot. Lin Fan glanced forward, spotting 5 mutated rabbits grazing on the grass a short distance away. He flicked his wrist, sending a flurry of darts flying. One by one, the rabbits collapsed. White light flashed as his darts teleported back to his backpack, alongside multiple brilliant streaks of loot light. Obtained mutated rabbit fur times 1, obtained mutated rabbit pelt times 1, obtained mutated rabbit fur times 1, obtained mutated rabbit pelt times 1, obtained mutated rabbit fur times 1. Lin Fan stared at the stream of pop-up notifications, his atoms apple bobbing up and down heavily. Every kill guaranteed loot, sometimes even double drops. This talent was utterly broken. Tier 1 gave 100 hit chance, Tier 2 full auto loot, and Tier 3 straight-up guaranteed item drops. If this pattern held, what would Tier 4 unlock? He dared not imagine. For now, the immediate upside was crystal clear. Every monster in the wilderness was an endless cash cow. As long as his stamina held, every kill spawned loot without a single waste. Lin Fan wasted no more time. He wiped the instance a second time, then immediately entered the third run. Over an hour later, all 3 free daily instances were fully cleared. Stepping out of the dungeon, he found a shaded spot and opened his backpack. He found 40 bundles of mutated rabbit fur and 52 rabbit fangs. Back in the old days, an entire newbie guild squad would grind for a full week to amass this haul. He'd collected it all alone in one morning. Without hesitation, he listed everything on the player marketplace at rock-bottom prices with firm buyout tags. Closing his status panel, he hopped on a shared bicycle and headed straight for the city outskirts. This time, he picked an open stretch around the football stadium, same as yesterday. Pull aggro, retreat, hurl darts. 60 pig iron darts zipped back and forth, their piercing whistles sounding like a hailstorm. Squeals of mutated rats echoed non-stop as wave after wave charged straight into his attack radius. The difference now? Every rat that collapsed burst into a wisp of white light that teleported loot straight to his backpack. 2 hours of hit-and-run combat pushed his body to its absolute limit. He was soaked in sweat, his arms too heavy to lift, fingers trembling uncontrollably. Hours of relentless sustained fire had drained every last ounce of stamina. Lin Fan fled the abandoned zone, found a clean empty lot, and leaned against a concrete pillar to rest. He pulled open his stat sheet. Level: LV6 3580/4000 EXP, only 400 EXP away from LV7. Hidden talent: Perfect Mechanism LV3 168 500's proficiency. Inside his backpack sat 100 mutated rat fangs. 100 rats slain, 100 fangs collected, not a single drop missing. He pulled up the trading interface to check sales. All the rabbit fur and fangs he'd listed that morning had sold out completely, adding 920 copper coins to his balance. The market's hot right now. Lin Fan stroked his chin. Judging by how fast yesterday's stock vanished, mutated rat fangs were high-demand goods. Selling them at 30 copper each had clearly undersold their value. This time he raised the unit price to 40 copper coins, listing 10 stacks of 10 fangs each. Less than 5 minutes later, all 10 stacks were snapped up. For 1,000 copper coins deposited into his account. Lin Fan glanced at his total balance, 5,600 copper coins. He'd never once possessed this much savings in his entire 16 years of life. Staring at the number string, he cracked a wide grin. After a short rest, he hopped back on the bike and rode home at a leisurely pace, soaking in the surrounding scenery. Once home, he dragged Yayao out of the house, the little girl trotting to keep up. "What's wrong, brother? Today I'm treating you to a restaurant meal." Yaya reached up to press her palm to his forehead, checking for a fever. The two walked to the street-front eatery, named Fulai Stir Fry. The shop was tiny, half the paint peeled off the blessing character on its sign, and stacks of plastic stools piled up by the entrance. But the portions were hearty, filled with real meat. Laborers from the neighborhood flocked here to fill their bellies. They stepped inside and claimed a small table against the wall. Lin Fan flipped open the laminated menu and pointed casually. Braised pork ribs, garlic spare ribs, plus a big bowl of seaweed egg drop soup. The landlady leaned over. "Will that fill you too? Want an extra vegetable dish?" "No, this is plenty." Yaya sat across from him, hands folded neatly on her knees, eyes darting around nervously. She was clearly unused to eating out. When the dishes arrived, her eyes blew wide open. She clutched her chopsticks, too hesitant to take a bite. "Brother." She leaned forward, voice dropped to a whisper. "Did you get mixed up in something bad?" Lin Fan froze mid-chopstick movement. Auntie next door said folks who suddenly come into money either stumbled onto treasure or took crooked paths. Yaya spoke with deadly seriousness, her small eyes locked unblinkingly on his face. Lin Fan nearly choked on his seaweed soup. "What silly thoughts are bouncing around that little head of yours?" He piled a huge chunk of braised pork onto her bowl. "Eat up. I earned this fair and square by hunting monsters. Clean, honest money." Still skeptical, Yaya bowed her head and took a bite of pork. Her cheeks instantly ballooned, glistening with grease as she mumbled, "It's so delicious." She hadn't even swallowed the first mouthful before shoving a third chunk into her mouth. Watching her devour the food, Lin Fan found himself shoveling down extra rice too. Halfway through the meal, he set down his chopsticks. "Yaya, HM, tomorrow I'll take you to buy 2 new outfits. Next week we'll go register you for school." She fell silent, chewing slowly for a long moment before swallowing. She'd sensed the shift these past few days. Every time her brother headed out and came home, he brought food. Sometimes meat, sometimes fruit. His whole aura was unrecognizable, walking with a light, confident spring in his step. She couldn't pinpoint exactly what had changed, but she knew for certain. Her brother had grown powerful. After a long pause, she lifted her grease-streaked small face, earnest. "I'll listen to whatever brother says." She hesitated, then added softly, "But please be careful when you go hunt monsters." "Relax, your brother's rock solid now." Lin Fan laughed and ruffled her hair roughly. "I'll outlive everyone else out there." Yaya squirmed and grimaced at his messy hair rubbing, wiped grease off her mouth with the back of her hand, then buried her face back in the plate of ribs. When it was time to pay, the landlady quoted the total, 48 copper coins. Cool night air swept the quiet, empty street as they walked hand in hand home. Yaya's mood was sky high, skipping along and stomping on their shadow silhouettes. "Brother, Can I get a dress for my new clothes? Sure thing. Can I also get new shoes? My white sneakers split open at the toe, water seeps in whenever it rains, buy them. Really? I want pink ones. All right, whatever you want. Overjoyed, Yaya swung their linked hands back and forth. Just as they reached their rickety iron front door, the status panel strapped to Lin Fan's wrist vibrated violently. This was no ordinary notification ping, but an official emergency danger alert. He raised his wrist and opened the panel. Warning, swarms of mutated pythons have appeared in the outer suburbs and are advancing toward the city limits. All citizens exercise extreme caution. Emergency protocols activated. City Guardian squads have been deployed. Remain calm. Yaya leaned in to peek, her face tightening with anxiety. Brother, are snakes coming into the city? They won't get far. Lin Fan closed the panel and pushed the door open for her to enter first. This kind of breakout happens almost every month. Dedicated city defense teams handle it. Remember the mutated scorpion infestation last time? Nothing terrible came of it. Yaya nodded with a quiet, oh, kicked off her shoes, and darted inside the house. Lin Fan lingered in the doorway, staring out at the distant night sky. Faint beams of light flickered over the outer suburbs, undoubtedly the Guardian squads setting up defensive lines. He tore his gaze away, latched the iron door shut, and stepped inside. After grinding monsters all day, Lin Fan fell asleep the second his head hit the pillow. The next morning, persistent vibrations from his wrist panel jolted him awake. Groggily, he rolled over and tapped the alert. Citywide announcement. All work and school suspended for the day. Reason: hordes of mutated pythons breached sections of the outer city defenses overnight. As of 4 a.m., 8 civilian attacks have been confirmed, 2 victims critically injured. Lin Fan snapped fully awake. He sat bolt upright, opened his class group chat flooded with 99+ unread messages. Skimming quickly, he parsed the key details. High-tier mutated pythons had been contained on the outskirts, but sheer numbers of low-tier serpents slipped through into urban districts. All rank A and B awakeners have been conscripted to sweep the city for stragglers and teams. Someone posted a screenshot of the official awakener conscription list. Comments flooded beneath it. Northside's hit worst. Witnesses saw snakes slithering out of sewers on Chaoyang Road last night. Southside's clear for now. South District folks don't need to panic too bad. I live on Chaoyang Road. I'm only a fragile rank C awakener, too scared to step foot outside my door. Lin Fan closed the chat, pulled on his clothes, and stepped out of his room. Yaya was already awake, squatting by the door brushing her teeth. She lifted her head at his footsteps, mouth foaming with toothpaste. Brother, no school today? Classes are cancelled. Lin Fan knelt down to meet her eyes. Yaya, I need to head out. Stay inside the house. Don't open the door for anyone, understand? Yaya Optical pulled her toothbrush out of her mouth. Is it about the snakes from last night? Southside's safe. Don't leave the house. Wait for me to come back. She spat out toothpaste foam and wiped her lips. So brother gets to help protect the city now. She paused, then mumbled quietly, be safe. I'll wait for you at home. Lin Fan patted her head. There's enough food in the fridge to last you all day. Remember, don't answer any knocks, no matter who claims to be outside. Yaya nodded, shoving her toothbrush back in her mouth to finish brushing. Lin Fan stepped outside, secured the iron door's latch firmly from the exterior, and set off. The South District streets were nearly deserted. Patrol vehicles cruised by occasionally, looping safety warnings over loudspeakers. Lin Fan unlocked a shared bicycle and rode straight north to the city's northern quarter. Chat messages mentioned mutated python sightings at Central Grant Park. Earlier Awakener search parties had combed the grounds with 0 results. The snakes were likely hiding during daylight hours. Snakes naturally gravitated toward dark, damp hiding spots. When he reached the park, the entire grounds stood empty, not a single person in sight. Lin Fan patrolled the perimeter, checking every bush, rubble pile, and sandpit. Nothing turned up. He stopped at the circular lake at the park center. The lake was small, 15 meters across at its widest point, over 2 meters deep at its lowest. The water's surface lay completely still. But if he were a snake hiding from daylight, this lake would be the perfect shelter. Other awakeners failed to spot them because they couldn't see beneath the water's surface. Yet his talent's description read, all thrown projectiles achieve 100 accuracy within throwing range. It never specified he needed line of sight to the target. It only stated within range. 2 meters underwater. Was that within his 30-meter throwing radius? Lin Fan pulled a handful of iron darts from his bag, weighing them in his palm. Only one way to test. He locked onto the target label Mutated Python. In his mind, flicked his wrist, and sent 6 darts slicing into the lake water. The instant the darts submerged, the lake exploded into churning white waves. Something massive thrashed violently beneath the surface, clouding the water with murky silt. Ding! EXP plus 10. Lin Fan froze for a split second. There really had been one down there. The darts auto-recalled, whistling back into his hands as system loot chimes chimed in his ears. He hadn't even glimpsed a single scale of the snake, yet it was already dead. That actually works? Lin Fan thought the mechanic absurd. Other Awakeners scoured every inch of the park with nothing to show for it, while he tossed darts into the lake and instantly claimed a kill. He decided not to hold back. Opening the game shop, he bought a full 100 pig iron darts in one purchase, spending 1,000 copper coins. With guaranteed drop rates, every copper spent would quickly be recouped. Then he paced along the lake's shore, hurling volleys of darts every few steps. Submerge, turbulence, dart recall, loot collection. His wrists never paused, endless streaks of metal piercing the water as EXP numbers ticked non-stop. Occasionally, fetid water splashed onto the shore, carrying a thick reptilian stench. The entire time, he never laid eyes on a single python. Only his backpack steadily filling with dropped monster materials. After roughly an hour, no more waves stirred when he threw darts, and EXP gains halted entirely. Still cautious, he circled the full lake perimeter once more, firing a round of darts every 2 meters. The water was truly cleared, no serpents left hiding below. He rested on a lakeside pavilion bench and opened the group chat for live updates. Someone uploaded a photo. Yuanqing clearing pythons at Wild G Lake. The shot was taken at an awkward angle, but the tall, slender girl was visible gripping a spell staff against a vast stretch of lake water in the background. Comments flooded the thread. Sister Wanqing's insane. True rank A mage power. I'm so jealous. Wild G Lake's enormous. Can she clear it all alone? Anyone heading over to assist? It was just one photo of her holding a staff. Where did everyone get off calling her overpowered? Lin Fan silently rolled his eyes at the hype, but he memorized the name Wild G Lake. It sat midway through the northern quarter, a short ride from his current spot. Curious to witness a rank A mage's true strength, he resolved to head over. If stray snakes lingered there, it'd be free grinding material. 15 minutes later, Lin Fan arrived at Wild G Lake. It was leagues larger than the tiny park pond back south, a proper man-made reservoir stretching at least 300 or 400 meters wide. The far shore invisible to the naked eye. Hiding snakes in these depths would prove nearly impossible for standard hunters. He walked along the shore for 10 minutes before spotting a lone figure in the distance. A girl, standing with her back to the lake, a silvery gray spell staff gripped in her left hand. Status, LV8. Name, Yuanqing. Lin Fan didn't rush to approach, lingering 50 meters away to observe her combat style. Yuanqing fought with razor-sharp efficiency. A flick of her staff launched a fist-sized fireball streaking from the tip. 4 or 5 pythons poking out of the grass detonated on impact, their health bars sliced in half. She twisted her left wrist, shifting the staff's glow to pale, icy blue. A massive ice spike crashed down, instantly slaying all 5 serpents in one strike. Rank A Awakeners unlocked an extra skill slot compared to Rank B, and she'd clearly chosen Frost Magic as her secondary spell. Fireballs shredded monster armor, Frost spells delivered finishing blows. A textbook high-tier mage crowd control rotation. The last serpents along the bank fell. Yuanqing stowed her staff and turned, seemingly ready to sweep the next stretch of shoreline. The second she spun around, Lin Fan's gaze snapped to the lake's surface directly behind her. No ripples marred the water, but a dark, unnatural patch stained the surface, a unique water refraction camouflage exclusive to high-tier mutated beasts. Yuanqing had just unleashed 2 consecutive high-level spells, draining her mental energy into a brief recovery window. She hadn't detected the deadly threat lurking behind her. Lin Fan sprinted forward the moment the water erupted. A colossal mutated python, thick as 2 adults standing side by side, launched itself from the lake bed, sending a 3-meter plume of water surging skyward. Its jaws gaped wide, thick yellow-green venom dripping from the roots of its fangs. Level LV12. Yuanqing spun at the splash, but it was too late. The serpent's head sat less than 4 meters from her. At this range, a mage couldn't finish a spell cast in time. She instinctively dodged sideways, yet the snake struck far too fast to fully evade. Mid-sprint, Lin Fan unleashed a full volley of darts with both hands. 6 steel projectiles buried themselves dead center in the python's 2 eyes. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. The damage output was pitifully low, but the searing agony of steel piercing its eyeballs hit hard. The python's head jolted sharply, locked in a pain-induced stun. The venom it had charged misfired half a meter wide, the corrosive yellow-green acid splattering the pavement, melting a smoking crater into the stone slabs. Seizing the split-second opening, Yi Wanqing rolled backward, putting 10 meters of distance between them as she raised her staff high. Their eyes met for a fleeting moment. No unnecessary words exchanged. Yi Wanqing channeled light into her staff tip, unleashing a freeze spell straight at the serpent. Its lower body remained submerged in the lake as ice crept upward along its scales, trapping most of its torso rigid. The python thrashed its head wildly, darts still embedded in its blinded eyes, lashing venom blindly in every direction out of raw instinct. A stream of corrosive acid arced straight toward Lin Fan. He twisted sideways, the venom grazing past his shoulder. The bushes behind him sizzled violently, leaves curling to ash instantly. Lin Fan loosed another full dart volley, this time targeting only soft tissue inside the serpent's open maw. Soft palate, tongue root, throat lining, striking every vulnerable spot. The python writhed in unbearable agony, unable to clamp its jaws shut, thrashing so hard the ice encasing its body spiderwebbed with cracks. The ice won't hold much longer, Yi Wanqing shouted. She began channeling her second spell, a fireball fully charged, blazing fire erupting from her staff tip. She wove fire control with her left hand and frost with her right, launching 2 glowing orbs one after another straight down the python's gullet. Internal detonation. The serpent's neck bulged grotesquely, its skin stretching taut as a dull explosion rumbled from within its body. A second fireball followed seconds later, slamming dead center into the thin scales covering its belly. Boom. Shards of snake scale and ice shrapnel sprayed across the shore. The python's massive body convulsed once, then went limp, crashing back into the lake with a towering splash. A kill notification popped up midair. At the exact same instant, a wisp of white light streaked into Lin Fan's backpack. Yi Wanqing's attention remained fixed on the lake, completely oblivious to the loot transfer. She retracted her staff and walked toward him, peeling off a sleeve splattered with droplets of corrosive venom and tossing it aside with a frown. Thank you. Without that distraction, I'd be dead right now. Just passing by chance. Yi Wanqing sized him up. A mere rank D thrower, yet every dart landed with pinpoint precision, not a single millimeter of deviation. She chose not to press for details. This lake's massive, and snakes could be hiding in any shoreline brush. Clearing it alone will take forever. Care to team up? Her tone was casual, without a hint of condescension. Sure. They split off to sweep the shoreline from opposite directions. Low-tier pythons couldn't survive 2 consecutive spells from Yi Wanqing. Lin Fan's side was even more decisive. Many serpents died impaled on darts before they even surfaced from the weeds. Every kill sent a new material into Lin Fan's backpack. 2 hours later, the entire shoreline of Wildji Lake was fully purged of serpents. Yi Wanqing strapped her staff to her back and turned to face him. Your aim's far beyond what a rank D awakener should be capable of. I've just practiced a lot, plus luck's been on my side today. Yi Wanqing clearly didn't buy the excuse, but she dropped the subject. I'm part of the Dawn Guild. If you're interested, I can put in a referral for you. Pass. My low rank would only get me mocked by the other guild members. Yi Wanqing didn't push further. Suit yourself. Come find me anytime if you change your mind, or if you run into trouble. I owe you my life today. She sent a friend request through her status panel. Lin Fan tapped accept. I'm heading off. Yi Wanqing lifted a hand in farewell, walking north along the lake bank. After watching her vanish into the distance, Lin Fan refreshed the group chat. Other sweep teams were wrapping up their assignments, and North District patrols were conducting final checks. No new python sightings reported. He spent another 2 hours crisscrossing the northern quarter. Public parks, irrigation canals, sewer entrances, abandoned construction yards. Not a single serpent remained. Dusk fell over the city. Lin Fan turned toward home, stopping at a convenience store to buy 2 cartons of milk and a loaf of bread. When he got home, Yaya was hunched over the table drawing. She lifted her head at the sound of the door opening. Brother, you're back. Did you get hurt? Nope. Your brother's really strong now. Those snakes couldn't even touch me. I knew my brother was the best. You must have killed tons of them. Lin Fan ruffled Yaya's hair without replying, kicked off his shoes, walked into the inner room, and shut the door behind him. He flopped onto the bed and opened his backpack. He'd been grinding monsters nonstop from dawn till dusk today. It was time to tally up all his loot. The house was deathly quiet, only the faint chirp of crickets drifting in from outside every now and then. Leaning against the headboard, Lin Fan swiped open the system panel. Name, Lin Fan. Class, Dart thrower rank D level. LV7 2700/8000 EXP attack. 9 throwing range. 40 meters hidden talent. Perfect mechanics LV3 480 to 500 effect 1. 100 hit rate within range. Effect 2, 100 auto collection. Effect 3, 100 item drop chance. He'd leveled up. He'd spent over 4 hours farming at the Park Pond and Wild G Lake, slaying a total of 312 mutated snakes, all low-level Tier 1 mobs. Though there were hundreds of them combined, all their EXP added up to less than what the single LV-12 mutated python had given. Unfortunately, Yuanqing had landed the killing blow on the python, so he'd earned 0 EXP from it. He didn't feel the slightest regret, though. His damage output against it had been pitifully weak anyway. He tapped the panel twice and allocated the single free attribute point he'd gotten straight to attack. His base attack stat rose to 10. Next, he opened his backpack inventory. Slot 1 held 100 snake fangs. Slot 2 held 214 snake scales. Slot 3 held 268 snake gallbladders. Lin Fan stared at the staggering stack of materials. Today's grind had bin wildly profitable. Low-tier materials normally had abysmal drop rates. Core crafting items like snake gallbladders rarely dropped even after hunting dozens of snakes. Yet here he was with hundreds stuffed in his bag. He pulled up the trading system, skipped checking individual unit prices, and selected all 3 stacks. He listed them as a bundled bulk sale with a fixed buyout price of 10,000 copper coins. Once that was done, his gaze fell on the 4th backpack slot. Resting there was a treasure chest glowing with soft, cool blue light, the drop from the LV-12 mutated python. He hadn't landed the killing blow on the serpent, but his talent's 100 auto-loot rule had pulled the chest straight into his inventory the second it spawned. This was his second blue-tier treasure chest. Lin Fan rubbed his hands in anticipation and pressed open. Click. A burst of blue light flooded the tiny room, and an object etched with delicate scale patterns hovered mid-air. Obtained equipment. Python Scale Armor blue-tier stat bonuses. HP plus 200, Stamina plus 5 special effect. 20 reduction to poison damage taken. Lin Fan froze for 2 full seconds before shooting upright in shock. This gear was top tier, perfectly filling his biggest weaknesses. His base HP was only 50. With the armor's bonus, his total HP jumped to 250, 5 times his original health pool. The plus 5 stamina stat was equally invaluable. Stamina determined how long he could sustain high-intensity combat and continuous dart throws. Previously, 2 hours of non-stop throwing left his arms too sore to lift. Doubled stamina meant double his farming endurance out in the wilds. The poison damage resistance was the cherry on top, an indispensable survival buff. He clicked the claim button. The dark cyan-scaled armor clung seamlessly to his body, thin and lightweight like an undergarment with 0 cumbersome weight. Ding! A new system notification popped up on his panel. Your listed bulk goods have sold. After transaction fee deduction, you receive 9,500 copper coins. Someone had bought the entire 10,000 coin bundle in under 5 minutes. Rich players were truly everywhere. Adding his previous savings, his total balance hit 15,000 copper coins. Lin Fan stared at the 5-digit number, closed his panel, and collapsed back into bed to sleep. It was the soundest night of rest he'd gotten in 8 years. Early the next morning, as the sun barely crested the horizon, Lin Fan dragged Yaya out of bed. He hauled her outside before she'd even finished washing her face. Brother, where are we going? Yaya rubbed her eyes and yawned sleepily. To the big downtown mall. We're going shopping. They arrived at the city's largest comprehensive shopping center. The blasting air conditioning sent goosebumps crawling over their skin. Yaya clung tightly to the hem of Lin Fan's shirt, too nervous to walk normally. The glass display windows lining both sides blazed with harsh lights. Every piece of clothing bore price tags lined with multiple zeros. Lin Fan pulled her into a children's clothing store. Pick anything you like, he said, gesturing toward rows of colorful dresses. Yaya twisted the edge of her shirt between her fingers, eyes fixed longingly on a pink lace-trimmed dress. After staring for ages, she shook her head. Brother, these clothes aren't nice. Let's go to the market stalls instead. Lin Fan ignored her hesitant protests and waved a shop assistant over. He pointed out the pink dress, picked out 2 sets of tracksuits, and 2 pairs of white sneakers printed with cartoon characters. Wrap all of these up. The purchase cost him over 700 copper coins. When they stepped back out onto the street, Yaya carried armfuls of shopping bags, glancing down at her new shoes every few steps, pausing mid-stride to avoid scuffing them. They skipped heading home that afternoon and went straight to South City No. 1 Experimental Primary School, the best school in the Southern District. Security was tight, with elite Awakener guards posted at the gate and walls reinforced with blast-proof materials. A long queue snaked through the registration office. When their turn came, the bespectacled administrator glanced at Lin Fan, then Yaya, and frowned slightly. New student or transfer? Semester tuition plus meal fees total 5,000 copper coins. No installment plans or fee waivers accepted. Lin Fan wasted no words and scanned his system payment code. Beep. Payment complete. 5,000 copper coins. The crisp notification chimed through the panel. The administrator's stern expression instantly softened into a warm smile as he quickly pulled out registration forms. Fill out your guardian information and residential address here. Bring the child back at 8 a.m. next Monday to collect textbooks. By the time they finished all paperwork, dusk had fallen. Yaya chattered nonstop the entire walk home, buzzing with excitement. After dinner that night, Yaya knelt over the small desk in the inner room, trying on her new clothes, while Lin Fan sat in the outer room shelling peanuts. Suddenly, his wrist panel vibrated violently, a message from the class group chat. Their head teacher Qin Shu had posted a highlighted urgent announcement, urgent conscription notice. Recently, mutated beast activity around the city has spiked sharply, with more frequent breaches of the outer city defenses. The City Defense Bureau has issued an emergency conscription order, calling all Awakeners to the northern front lines. This conscription is open to all classes and levels, with a 7-day deployment term. After 7 days, all volunteers will be split into squads and assigned to frontline defense zones. All students are expected to uphold their civic duty and sign up voluntarily to protect our city. The chat erupted into chaos the second the post went live. The northern frontlines? Are you joking? That place is a meat grinder. Signing up is basically walking to our deaths. We were terrified just from the few snakes that slipped into the city last night. The front lines are swarming with monsters dozens of levels high. Am I, a mere LV3 healer, supposed to be their snack? Zhao Chong, weren't you bragging yesterday about wiping out mutated beasts? You signing up yet? Piss off. I'm my parents' only son. I plan to live a long life. Messages flooded the screen nonstop, nearly all filled with fear and hesitation. Lin Fan stared at the chat feed, tapping the edge of his panel absent-mindedly. The northern front lines. 3 years prior, his parents had answered the exact same conscription call and never come back. He knew far better than these students just how deadly that battlefield was, but things were different now. The snakes that broke through the city defenses the previous night were no random accident. The monsters were being pushed into tighter living spaces. If the city walls fell, nothing would save Yaya. He possessed overwhelming self-preservation power, bolstered by his absurdly broken talent. If he didn't hold the line at the front, their peaceful days would vanish sooner or later. Rather than wait for monsters to pour into the city and fight defensively, he would head north to farm them proactively. He made up his mind. He opened the conscription form that popped up on his system, typed in his name and class, and hit submit. 7 days remained until deployment. Lin Fan stared at the countdown timer in the corner of his panel. For these next 7 days, his only goal was simple: farm monsters, level up, repeat. Before dawn broke the next morning, Lin Fan headed out. He left breakfast simmering in the pot with a note on the table. Food's in the pot. Don't wander off after eating. His destination was the abandoned outer suburbs, the nesting grounds of mutated rats. He'd only cleared the perimeter last time. Today he planned to venture deep into the derelict football stadium. Its rusted perimeter fence reeked of rot and monster stench from meters away. The 7-day conscription countdown ticked down second by second in the top corner of his panel. First, he cleared out old inventory, 160 pig iron darts, originally priced at 10 copper coins each, listed at half price on the trading system. The sale netted him 800 copper coins, bringing his savings to 9,000. He opened the in-game mall and navigated straight to the dart weapon category. Falling Star darts, forged from extraterrestrial meteorite iron, plus 50 attack, priced at 1,000 copper coins apiece. 1,000 coins per dart. Lin Fan stared at the price tag for 2 seconds before dumping all 9,000 coins to buy 9. As someone who'd grown up penniless, spending his entire fortune stung at first, but once the purchase went through, he felt a weight lift off his chest. His base attack stood at 10, boosted by an extra 50 from the Falling Star darts for a total of 60 attack. LV3 mutated rats only had 80 HP. 2 darts would take each down. The 9 darts auto recalled to his hand endlessly, more than enough ammo. Satisfied, he climbed over the rotting wire mesh fence and stepped onto the gravel-strewn stadium grounds. The turf had long since eroded away, dotted with fist-sized rat burrows everywhere. Standing in the center, He had an unobstructed view of every direction. He hurled darts with both hands simultaneously. Squeak! The first gray-furred mutated rat darted out, a dart slamming straight into its skull. It collapsed, kicking its legs once before falling still. Moments later, 2 burrows erupted at once, for glowing red eyes peeking out. Then 4 more, 8, a dozen. Rats poured non-stop from every hole, gray, black, large, small, swarming toward him from all sides in a dense horde. Lin Fan alternated throwing darts with left and right hands. The falling star darts sliced through the air, striking, killing, recalling, and launching again without pause. But the rats advanced faster than he could slay them. He cut down the front wave, yet more rats charged over the corpses. A thick, slippery layer of dead rats coated the ground beneath his feet, and the horde closed in tighter by the second. If he stayed put, he would be overwhelmed. He couldn't wait to be surrounded, launching all 9 darts in one concentrated volley to carve a blood-soaked path. Before the gap sealed shut, Lin Fan sprinted forward. 50 meters ahead, he spotted a lopsided flagpole, heavily rusted, bent halfway up, its top platform suspended 3 meters above the ground. Lin Fan pushed off the ground and leaped upward, locking his feet onto the pole's top to steady himself. Beneath him, the stadium floor writhed with a black mass of mutated rats, crushing one another as they squealed furiously. A few agile ones began scrabbling up the metal pole toward him. This was exactly what he'd wanted. No matter how many rats there were, they could only climb one at a time. He hurled volley after volley of darts downward, impaling rats mid-climb and sending them crashing back into the horde below. EXP points skyrocketed nonstop. He glanced down and realized he'd celebrated too soon. The rats beneath him began stacking on top of one another, forming living pyramids. The ones at the bottom were crushed to death under the weight, while those above climbed higher across the corpses. Larger rats emerged from the swarm, their level tags no longer reading LV3, but LV4 and LV5. Lin Fan quickly scanned the horde. If any LV10+ mutated beasts hid within the crowd, trapped 3 meters up a pole would turn him from hunter to caged prey. He couldn't risk lingering. He launched all 9 falling star darts at once, carving an escape path back toward the stadium entrance. He jumped down from the pole, nearly slipping on the carpet of rat corpses, regained his balance, and ran for his life. His darts flew forward, recalled instantly, and relaunched again as he sprinted, clearing a path ahead with every step. He bolted through the crumbled stadium gates and along the gravel road all the way to the outer suburban perimeter. After running nearly a kilometer, the noise of squeaking faded behind him. Lin Fan bent over, hands braced on his knees, gasping for breath. Glancing back, he spotted a handful of straggler rats circling far off before retreating into their burrows. He'd slain roughly 500 rats. Opening his panel, he checked his stats. Level, LV812300/16,000 EXP. But what truly stunned him was his talent bar. Hidden talent, Perfect Mechanics LV4 2500/5000. Effect 4, 100 critical hit chance. Critical hits? A flicker of delight crossed Lin Fan's face. He immediately grabbed a falling star dart and hurled it at a lone LV3 mutated rat 50 meters away. The second the dart struck, a damage number floated above the rat's head, 120. His standard hit damage was only 60, meaning this was double damage. The LV3 rat didn't even let out a squeak before collapsing, its HP bar fully depleted. 1 dart, instant kill. Lin Fan opened his backpack to find 501 mutated rat fangs neatly stacked inside. He listed them on the trading system at 40 copper coins each, and the entire stack sold out within minutes, depositing over 20,000 copper coins into his account. Without hesitation, he reopened the mall and spent all 20,000 coins on 20 more falling star darts, bringing his total to 29. With 100 critical hits active, all 29 darts focused on a single target dealt a combined 2,900 damage in one volley. He guessed only monsters above LV20 could survive that much damage. He'd never even seen a mob that powerful before. He stood, stretched his wrists, and stared back at the distant football stadium. Time to go back for round 2. When he re-entered the stadium, the rat horde was just as massive as before, but this time, Lin Fan didn't run. With 29 falling star darts at his disposal, 100 accuracy, guaranteed critical hits, and infinite auto-recall within 45 meters, he held total control. The first LV3 rat to burst from its burrow was instantly decapitated by a single dart. 3 more charged out right behind it, 3 streaks of metal felling all 3 in an instant. He stepped forward 1 pace, and every burrow ahead erupted simultaneously, releasing over 20 rats at once. Lin Fan threw darts with both hands, the meteorite blades weaving through the swarm, claiming a life with every strike. Darts returned to his grip only to be hurled out again on a relentless loop. Within 10 minutes, every LV3 rat in the stadium was dead. LV4 rats were twice as large and far faster, yet a single critical dart still brought them down. Half an hour later, only rats LV5 and above remained. LV6, LV7, and LV8 specimens, some nearly the size of small dogs with bared sharp fangs. It never took more than 3 darts to kill any of them. The hunter and hunted dynamic had completely flipped. Lin Fan chased the surviving rats from the stadium center to the spectator stands, then into the interior access tunnels. The rats scattered frantically, eventually diving deep into wall and floor burrows and refusing to emerge. No living targets remained within his 45-meter throwing radius. He followed the tunnel deeper underground, rounding 2 corners to reach a half-collapsed locker room. 10 LV8 mutated rats huddled in the corner, large and fanged, hissing low, threatening snarls as they bared their teeth. Lin Fan stopped at the doorway, not stepping inside. He hurled 10 darts straight into the cramped room. With nowhere to run in the tight space, the darts ricocheted off the walls, striking every rat square in the skull. The largest beast took 3 darts before collapsing, throwing itself toward the door in its death throes, falling just 2 steps short. All 10 rats were dead within seconds. Lin Fan stepped inside. 5 rusted metal lockers leaned crookedly against the far wall. The first locker, empty. The second, its rusted latch seized shut, impossible to pull open. The third locker door creaked open when he tugged it. Lin Fan froze mid-motion, hands suspended in the air. A glowing purple light portal hovered inside the locker, roughly an arm's width wide, its surface rippling faintly, with visible cracks spreading across its frame. A tiny mutated rat had squeezed halfway through one fissure. Lin Fan casually tossed a dart to pin it to the locker wall before it could fully emerge. He recognized this portal immediately. Advanced dungeon entrances at school looked identical. This one was clearly damaged, fractured all over as if something had torn its interior apart. That explained why the stadium's rat population never thinned. They spawned endlessly from this broken dungeon portal. Lin Fan knelt to examine the fissures along the portal's base. The gaps were narrow, barely wide enough for a single rat to squeeze through. Yet countless rats had poured out over months or even years to breed and form this massive infestation. He stepped closer to the portal, and a system prompt popped up before his eyes. Unknown damage, dungeon entrance detected. Enter. Warning. Monster levels within the dungeon are undetermined. Team entry recommended. Lin Fan glanced at the red warning text, shut the locker door, and turned to leave the stadium. Once outside, he found a quiet spot to tally his full farming gains and pulled up his complete stat panel. Name, Lin Fan. Class, Dart Thrower Rank D. Level, LV10 12,000/60 4,000 EXP. Stamina, 10 plus 5 from equipment. Agility, 18 plus 3 base class, plus 12 equipment bonus. Defense, 4. Attack, 11. HP, 250 plus 200 from equipment. Throwing range, 50 meters. Skills, none. Talents, none. Hidden talent, perfect mechanics LV4 2500/5000. Effect 1, 100 hit rate. Effect 2, 100 auto collection. Effect 3, 100 item drop chance. Effect 4, 100 critical hit chance. Every 10 levels granted an extra 10 free attribute points. He now held 12 unallocated points, all poured into attack, to raise his base to 23. Opening his backpack, he found 2,020 mutated rat fangs. He listed all of them on the trading system for 40 copper coins each, and the entire stock sold within minutes, depositing over 80,000 copper coins into his balance. Staring at the sum, he could barely believe his eyes. On the walk home, his mind kept drifting back to the purple light portal hidden in the locker room. What lay waiting inside that broken dungeon? With unknown monster levels, could there be beasts above LV20 lurking within? There was a high-level dungeon at school identical to this one, staffed by dedicated guards. Even if you got injured inside, you wouldn't truly die. He planned to check it out tomorrow. He needed to figure out what level of monsters lurked behind that portal first. The school playground was nearly empty in the early morning. Lin Fan stood before 3 glowing doorways, his gaze fixed on the purple-lit high-level dungeon entrance on the far right. He'd looked it up on the campus forum the night before. The school's high-tier instance was called Raging Bear Woods. It only spawned one type of monster, mutant gray bears, all level 15. They boasted devastating attack power, thick defenses, and massive HP pools. In past years, teams of Senior 3 students foolish enough to test their luck rarely escaped without getting teleported out before slaying a single bear. Single entry ticket cost 2,000 copper coins. A few days ago, he couldn't have scraped together that sum. Now he had nothing to worry about. The system deducted 2,000 copper coins. Lin Fan lifted his foot and stepped through the purple light gate. He found himself surrounded by dense red pine forest, its tree trunks incredibly thick. Dead branches and fallen leaves carpeted the ground, crunching under every step. He hadn't walked far when a massive grayish-brown bear rounded a tree trunk. It was the size of a small tank, standing a full 3 meters tall, only 20 meters away from him. He activated Scan. Mutant Gray Bear LV-15, Attack, 100, Defense, 100, HP, 1,000. Lin Fan's eyes twitched. 100 defense points and 1,000 health points. Even with the damage bonus from his falling star darts, his total attack barely topped 70. Without his 100 critical hit talent, his darts would barely scratch its tough hide, unable to pierce its armor at all. The mutant gray bear spotted him and let out a thunderous roar, charging forward on all fours. The tremors sent leaves showering down from the trees. Yet its speed left much to be desired, not nearly as agile as the mutant rats he'd fought before. Slow, cumbersome targets like this posed zero risk to him. His flowing cloud rabbit gloves flickered faintly. Lin Fan hurled darts with both hands, the falling star projectiles screaming through the air. Squelch! The steel dart buried itself deep in the bear's fur, a bright red damage value floating up, 46. The critical hit doubled his damage, finally breaking through its 100-point armor. The bear howled in agony, yet the blow was negligible against its 1,000 HP. It kept charging straight at him. Lin Fan slid backward and sideways, using pine stumps to widen the gap between them. His hands blurred as he unleashed a relentless volley of darts. Dark streaks of metal wove unbroken lines across the clearing. 22 falling star darts buried themselves solidly into the beast's body. The mutant gray bear stumbled forward a dozen meters before its colossal frame crashed to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Mutant gray bear slain. EXP plus 150. His first target down. As long as he kept space to maneuver, this was child's play. Lin Fan steadied his breathing and ventured deeper into the pine forest, beginning an uninterrupted slaughter. Half an hour later, a blanket of white light wrapped around Lin Fan. Time was up, and he was forcibly teleported out of the dungeon. He tallied his loot by the playground edge. In 30 minutes, he'd wiped out all 50 bears inside, gaining a total of 7,500 EXP. Opening his backpack, 50 bears had dropped 30 bear gallbladders, 46 bear pelts, and 24 bear bones, all highly sought materials. Lin Fan listed everything as a bundled bulk sale on the trading system. In less than a minute, another player bought the entire stack for a buyout price of 15,000 copper coins. Subtracting the 2,000 coin entry fee, he'd netted 13,000 coins in just half an hour. Making money had never been this fast or effortless. Without pausing to catch his breath, Lin Fan paid the ticket fee once more and stepped back through the purple portal. Slay all bears. Exit, sell materials. Repeat. Second run, third run. By the 10th time he was teleported out, Lin Fan slumped onto the playground steps, too drained to lift a single finger. His stamina had hit rock bottom, his shirt soaked through with sweat and plastered to his back. Yet one glance at his system panel washed all weariness away. Level up, LV11, total balance, 128,000 copper coins. This was a fortune the average citizen would take years to amass. That afternoon, Lin Fan showered and changed into clean clothes. Taking all his savings, he headed to the South City Commercial Bank to open a deposit card. At the counter, he transferred 100,000 copper coins directly onto the card. He set the passcode as Yaya's birthday. The thin plastic card felt surprisingly heavy. Instead of heading straight home after leaving the bank, he detoured to Aunt Wong's house at the end of the street. Aunt Wong was a widow who scraped by running a breakfast stall at the street corner. After his parents passed away years ago, Lin Fan and Yaya would have frozen to death that winter without her constant bowls of hot soup and steamed buns. Her tin front door stood ajar. Lin Fan pushed it open and stepped inside. The yard was small, stacked with honeycomb coal bricks and sacks of flour. Aunt Wong, apron tied around her waist, carried a basin of washed vegetables out from the kitchen. Spotting Lin Fan, she wiped her hands on her apron and smiled. Lindsay, home from school early? Bring Yaya over for dinner tonight. I just bought a slab of pork. Lin Fan ignored her invitation. He walked over, pulled the brand new bank card from his pocket, and set it on the concrete yard table. Aunt, I have to leave town for a long trip soon. I don't feel safe leaving Yaya alone at home, so I'm hoping you can look after her for a while. Aunt Wong froze, glancing at the card on the table. A long trip? Where are you going? You haven't even finished your senior 3 year. Lin Fan paused, keeping his tone calm and steady. I signed up for the government's defense conscription. I leave for the northern front lines in a few days. I don't know when I'll be back, or if I'll come back at all. Shock flooded Aunt Wong's face. Have you lost your mind? Don't you remember how your parents died? You're still just a kid, only a D-rank awakener. What business do you have? The defensive lines are crumbling. Mutant beasts have already broken into the city. Hiding back here will only get us killed sooner or later. If I fight on the front, I might stand a fighting chance. Lin Fan met her eyes. I've set all the money aside. This card holds 100,000 coins for Yaya's school fees and future expenses. The passcode is her birthday. On top of that, I'll transfer 10,000 coins to your account every month as payment for taking care of her. Take this money back right now. Aunt Wong grew flustered, shoving the card back toward him. I don't want a single copper of yours. I've long thought of Yaya as my own daughter. If you insist on leaving, I'll watch over her free of charge. Aunt. Lin Fan pressed the card firmly back into her palm. If you refuse this, I'll have no choice but to take her to the front lines with me. Besides, your roof leaked all last year and you never fixed it. Use this money to repair the house first, and keep the rest for groceries. I won't be able to leave with peace of mind if you turn it down. He grabbed Aunt Wong's phone, scanned the payment QR code taped to the wall, and transferred 15,000 coins instantly. 10,000 is this month's care fee, 5,000 for roof repairs. I'll send the rest monthly. The payment alert chimed. Aunt Wong stared at the number on her phone, then at Lin Fan's unyielding expression, her eyes growing watery. She let out a long sigh and stopped arguing at last. You've always been such a stubborn boy. Fine, I'll look after Yaya. Even if you never come back, I'll make sure she always has food on the table. Be careful out there, your life matters most. I will. Lin Fan exhaled in relief, his biggest worry settled. That evening, Lin Fan fetched Yaya and they ate dinner at Aunt Wong's house. Yaya was completely at ease here, eating until her mouth glistened with grease. She had no idea Lin Fan was bound for the front lines, chattering nonstop to Aunt Wong about everything she'd seen at her new school, thinking this was just a casual visit. They headed home after the meal. A dim yellow light bulb lit the tiny house. Yaya ran to the back room to flip through her picture books. Lin Fan leaned against the bed frame in the outer room, staring at the bright red countdown timer in the corner of his system panel. 5 days remaining until deployment to the northern front lines. Before he left, he needed to boost his strength drastically. Level was one factor, but far more critical was the proficiency of his hidden talent. Hidden talent. Perfect Mechanics LV4 3000/5000. He needed 2,000 more kills to level it up. He had no idea what new ability the next rank would unlock, but it would almost certainly be a life-saving or battle-turning trump card. The problem was finding 2,000 monsters to slay. The mutant rat nest at the stadium had been completely wiped out. Any surviving rats had grown wary, never daring to emerge from their burrows. The moment he drew near, not a single squeak echoed across the whole field. Farming the school dungeon was reliable, yet only 50 bears spawned per run, hardly enough to hit his target. Where could he grind mobs fast enough? Several ideas flickered through his mind, before settling on the purple light portal hidden in the locker room of the abandoned football stadium. That damaged dungeon portal, cracked all over, was the source of the rat horde. Yet the uneasy sense of dread he'd felt standing before it lingered. His gut told him the monsters inside were far above his current level. Charging in without full preparation would likely get him killed. To enter, or to stay away. As he tangled with the decision, his wrist panel vibrated once. A private message notification. Sender, Yuan Qing. Lin Fan, I heard you also signed up for the government's defense conscription? That single short sentence made Lin Fan stop tapping his knee in thought. How had she found out? The conscription list hadn't been released. Still, her guild Dawn held immense influence, so accessing internal records was within their power. Lin Fan typed a reply. Yes, I registered. Less than 5 seconds passed before Yuan Qing's response popped up. Since you're heading to the front, you'll definitely want to raise your level these next few days. Our guild plans to clear an unclaimed wild ruin tomorrow. It's swarming with monsters, perfect for fast leveling. We're short a long-range damage dealer to clear minor mobs. Would you be interested in joining our team? Unclaimed ruin, extremely high monster density. Her words perfectly matched what Lin Fan needed. Rather than gamble blindly, joining an organized guild squad would grant safety. Better yet, all he needed was sheer kill count. No matter how many minions spawned, his falling star darts would turn them straight into talent proficiency points. Sounds good. What time tomorrow, and where do we meet? Lin Fan replied without hesitation. 7 a.m. at Mishue Fire City in North Town. Yi Wanqing answered concisely. Closing the chat window, Lin Fan checked his backpack. Dozens of falling star darts rested neatly in their slots. 5 days was more than enough to push his talent to the next tier. 7 a.m., Mishue Fire City. Lin Fan locked his shared bike and spotted Yi Wanqing immediately. She'd foregone her school uniform today, wearing a set of dark gray lightweight armor, her neat short hair fluttering in the morning breeze. Compared to their meeting by the lake, a sharp, deadly aura clung to her frame. Over here. Yi Wanqing waved, pushing open the glass door and walking inside. The cafe held no other patrons. A man and a girl sat in the window booth. The man had an extraordinarily broad back, his shoulders filling the single sofa entirely. His dark red heavy plate armor glinted with cold metallic sheen under the indoor lights. Lin Fan slowed his steps slightly. The oppressive aura rolling off him made anyone nearby uncomfortable. Let me introduce everyone. Yi Wanqing led Lin Fan over. This is Xin Chang, Vice President of our Dawn Guild. Warrior class, a rank awakening compatibility. Xin Chang turned his head. Square-jawed, a rough layer of stubble covering his chin, he sized Lin Fan up. Lin Fan said nothing, instantly casting skin on him. Name, Xin Chang, class, Warrior A rank, level, LV 2028,000/1050000. Stamina, 50, agility, 30, defense, 220, attack, 160, HP, 3200, 10 damage immunity. Staring at those stats, Lin Fan froze. 220 defense, 3200 HP. That level 15 bear wouldn't even scratch Xin Chang's armor. He shifted his gaze. Across from him sat a young girl with twin ponytails, swallowed by an oversized cream-white cleric robe. She clutched a cup of full sugar bubble tea, crunching her straw, her feet dangling above the floor. This is our guild's treasure, Su Xiaoding. Just call her Xiaoding. Healer class, S rank awakening compatibility. Yi Wanqing's tone turned serious. She's our team's core sustained source for this ruin run. We prioritize protecting her above all else. S rank. This was Lin Fan's first time meeting an S rank awakener in person. She looked 2 or 3 years younger than him, round baby fat softening her cheeks. Nothing about her appearance suggesting battlefield experience. He cast scan on her next. Name, Su Xiaoding, class, healer S rank, level, LV 15-14500/330000, stamina, 15, agility, 20, defense, 100, mana, 320, HP, 1300, 10 boost to healing effect. Lin Fan glanced over at Yi Wanqing last. Name, Yi Wanqing, class, mage A rank, level, LV 15-26000/330000, stamina, 12, agility, 20, defense, 88, mana, 260, HP, 1300, 10 boost to spell damage. After reviewing all 3 stat panels, Lin Fan closed his eyes briefly. He possessed only D rank compatibility, gaining merely 1 free attribute point per level. A ranks received 4, S ranks 5. The stat gap would only widen drastically as levels rose. Worse still, all 3 wore glowing high-tier equipment that outmatched his own. Yet he quickly pushed those thoughts aside. 100 hit chance, 100 item drop rate. His hidden talent was the most broken, unfair power in this world. Catching up to them was only a matter of time. Sit, let's discuss the mission. Xin Chang unrolled a hand-drawn map on the table, tapping a red circled mark with his thick finger. Our destination is an unclaimed wild ruin, located in the buffer zone near the northern front lines. It's a fair distance, relatively safe, but it houses a massive nest. We have one single objective: slay the ant queen to stop the ant swarm's expansion. The queen's level is unknown. The worker ants patrolling the outer tunnels average around LV 12. He swept his gaze across the 3 other team members. 4 of us, safety our top priority at all times. If anything goes wrong inside the ruin, we evacuate immediately. No one chases kills recklessly. Finishing his speech, Xin Chang pushed back his chair and walked over to Lin Fan. His gauntlet palm clapped Lin Fan's shoulders twice, the weight heavy enough to stagger him slightly. Wanqing spoke highly of you before we met, said you'd be useful. I scanned your stats just now, and your numbers are admittedly subpar. His voice remained level. But you're part of our squad now. Stick close behind me and stand beside Xiaoding once we enter the ruin. Focus on staying alive before you worry about dealing damage. Attack when you can, don't push your limits if things turn ugly. Su Xiaoding lifted her head then, straw still clamped between her lips, mumbling from behind her milk tea cup. "Brother Chong, don't scare him. I'll keep healing him." Shin Chong ignored her. The four stepped outside the cafe. A heavily modified military Hummer SUV waited by the curb, its chassis raised extremely high. Two-finger-thick bulletproof windows and spike-covered steel bumpers welded to the front grille for collision protection. Shin Chong took the wheel. The off-roader rumbled with a deep growl, heading straight for the northern wilderness. More than 3 hours later, the landscape had transformed entirely. Asphalt highways lay shattered, split open by dark purple mutant thorns bursting up from underground. Abandoned buildings stood half-collapsed, twisted tree trunks corroded to rusted iron hues. The borders of human safe zones were far behind them now. The Hummer stalled before a steep hillside blanketed in giant boulders. "The road ends here. Grab your gear. We've got a half-hour mountain hike ahead." Shin Chong hauled an absurdly large black tower shield from the trunk and strapped it to his back, hefting a massive battle axe in one hand. Su Xiaodong brushed snack crumbs off her palms, drawing her staff. Positioning herself obediently at Shin Chong's right side, Yi Wanqing retrieved her mage staff to cover the rear of the group. Lin Fan walked in the middle of the squad, speaking barely a word the whole way. Wind was blocked by rock cliffs. The only sound echoing was their footsteps. After passing through the narrowest stretch of jagged stone boulders, the view suddenly opened wide. At the far end of the plain loomed a gigantic earthen mound, 30 meters tall, sprawling across land. Its outer shell was a deep crimson, dotted with hundreds of irregular holes. The mud walls, mixed with ant colony secretions, had dried rock hard enough to chip steel blades upon impact. Not a single blade of grass grew for kilometers surrounding the mound. The mud ground had been soaked black and brown by ant acid, sticky and gelatinous underfoot. A sharp, acrid stench hung thick in the air, stinging their respiratory tracts. Several main tunnel entrances at the base were wide enough to drive a truck through. Mutant red ants over a meter long patrolled outside, their carapaces glinting cold metallic gray. 6 thorn-lined legs scuttled rapidly across the dirt. Their heads sported massive serrated mandibles, currently gnawing the carcass of a cow, dragging it deep into the nest. Vast streaks of dried black acid stained the ground, every stone pockmarked with corrosion pits. The sheer number of ants far exceeded Lin Fan's expectations. He checked his system panel and saw over 100 worker ants visible within scanning range alone, with hundreds more lurking inside the earthen mound. Scan activated. Mutant red ant, worker ant level, LV-12. Defense, 20. Attack, 120. HP, 1300. Calculating based on its HP and defense stats, it would take 12 darts to kill a single ant. He could only take down one monster every 2 seconds. This efficiency was far too low to earn much EXP. A flicker of disappointment crossed Lin Fan's mind. He opened the system shop and spent every copper coin he owned to buy 11 more Falling Star darts. He now carried 40 in total, which ought to suffice. When Shin Chong sent a team invitation, Lin Fan tapped accept, officially joining the squad. Yi Wanqing walked over and spoke in a quiet voice. "When you're in a team, as long as you deal damage to a monster, you'll receive a share of the kill EXP, and loot will be distributed randomly among party members. We brought you along mainly to help you level up quickly. Try to land at least one hit on every monster we fight. Leave the heavy damage to the rest of us." EXP was awarded for merely landing a damaging strike. Lin Fan had only ever solo hunted since his awakening and had no idea such a team mechanic existed. His talent guaranteed a 100 hit rate, meaning he could max out every single EXP share from every kill. And loot would be split randomly too. A subtle, cunning smirk tugged at the corner of Lin Fan's mouth. "Thanks." Lin Fan nodded. The 4 of them advanced slowly toward the anthill. As they drew near, Shin Chong laid out their battle plan. The assault will unfold in 3 phases. First, wipe out all worker ants patrolling the outer perimeter. Second, enter the nest and slay soldier ants. Third, eliminate the ant queen. I'll take the front line, Wanqing covers the rear. Lin Fan and Xiaodong will stand side by side in the middle. We'll maintain a diamond formation. Xiaodong's top priority is self-healing on demand. Wanqing, focus solely on dealing maximum damage. I'll handle all frontline defense. Lin Fan, act as the situation demands. The plan barely assigned Lin Fan any meaningful role. Yet he understood his own limited power. This setup was indeed the safest option for the team. Shin Chong led the way, holding his massive tower shield before him to shield Su Xiaodong and Yi Wanqing behind him. Lin Fan stood off to one side as the 4 advanced in their formation. The acrid stench of ant acid burned their nostrils, and their boots squelched against the dark brown, sticky mud beneath their feet. 30 meters away from the largest main tunnel entrance of the towering earthen mound, Xinqiang called the group to a halt. Wanqing, strike first, Xinqiang said. Without a word, Yi Wanqing pointed her silver gray staff forward. Blazing scarlet light erupted from its tip, and a fireball the size of a round table streaked through the air with a trail of flame, slamming dead center into the pitch-black anthill tunnel. A deafening explosion roared, sending fire and mud flying. A shrill scraping sound echoed from deep inside the mound. The worker ants wandering outside flew into a frenzy at once, spinning around and charging straight for the party. Hordes of meter-long giant ants with reddish-brown carapaces flooded out of the tunnel mouth, surging forward like a crimson tide. Crowd control now, Xinqiang bellowed. Yi Wanqing twisted her left wrist, unleashing pale blue-white light that spread outward in a wide sheet of ice across the ground. The dozen red ants charging at the front froze solid to the mud, their 6 legs thrashing uselessly. Another fireball crashed into the swarm, stripping most of the frontline ants' HP and making their carapaces crackle and scorch. Xinqiang strode half a step forward, raising his heavy battle axe high as dark red flames ignited along its blade. Flame burst slash. The axe whistled through the air. It slammed hard into the ground, unleashing a fan-shaped wave of fire that swept across the mud. The red ants, already wounded by Yi Wanqing's spells, were engulfed by the blaze. Their carapaces burned straight through, and their green bodily fluids vaporized before they could splatter. A dozen red ants collapsed. As the front wave fell, more ants surged forward to take their place. Xinqiang braced his tower shield forward, absorbing the crushing bite of 3 ants' serrated mandibles. Metallic screeches rang out as fangs scraped against his armor. Standing behind him, Su Xiaodang raised her short staff high. Healing rain. Countless pinpricks of green light drifted down to envelop Xinqiang. The large chunk of HP he'd just lost refilled instantly, a 3-digit green healing number floating above his head. The single healing burst restored more health than Lin Fan's entire maximum HP pool. Su Xiaodang did not pause, swirling her staff once more. Toxic mist. A dense cloud of purple-black fog billowed into the ant horde. The second worker ants stepped into the mist. Their carapaces turned black, and their HP bars plummeted rapidly. Crowd control, area of effect damage, frontline tanking, and overwhelming sustained healing. Their team coordination flowed seamlessly. Standing beside Su Xiaodang, Lin Fan flicked his wrists. 40 falling star darts materialized clutched in his palms. He had no need to deal heavy damage. He only needed to land a hit. His hands blurred in rapid motion. Within his 80-meter throwing range, he hurled darts in every direction. His 100-hit talent activated automatically. Lin Fan did not even need to aim. Every dart threaded past obstacles to bury itself in any ant with an active HP bar. Squelch. 40 falling star darts pierced 40 separate red ants. Under the Team EXP sharing rules, each strike counted as valid damage contribution. A split second later, Xinqiang's axe and Yi Wanqing's magic finished off the wounded ants, and a flood of kill notifications flooded Lin Fan's log. The darts automatically flew back to his grasp the moment they struck. Lin Fan kept hurling, retrieving, and throwing non-stop, an emotionless automated dart launcher. Xinqiang absorbed all incoming damage at the front, Su Xiaodang guarded the rear, and Yi Wanqing relentlessly whittled the ants' HP. All Lin Fan needed to do was distribute his darts evenly across every mutant red ant. Xinqiang maintained tight control over the battle's tempo. The diamond formation advanced and retreated in controlled bursts, only kiting the perimeter worker ants and never crossing the 30-meter warning line. The nest soldier ants never got a chance to emerge. 3 full hours of grueling, high-intensity combat passed. Layer upon layer of dead red ants carpeted the ground, and the stream of worker ants pouring out of the mound had thinned drastically. Fall back, Xinqiang gasped for breath. The edge of his massive tower shield was pockmarked with acid corrosion, its metal frame warped beyond repair. Regroup and pull back to a safe distance. Yi Wanqing planted her staff and cast her maximum radius ice spell, trapping the remaining pursuing ants. Su Xiaodang lifted her short staff high. Rhythm of the wind. A ring of pale cyan air swirled beneath the 4 party members, lightening their bodies and drastically boosting their movement speed. Xinqiang covered their retreat as the squad sprinted far backward. They ran 3 kilometers uphill to a wide, unobstructed bluff, where the ant swarm was no longer visible. Only then did Xinqiang order a full stop. The other 3 collapsed onto a pile of boulders, gasping heavily. Yi Wanqing twisted open a water bottle and chugged half. Xin Chong tossed his ruined tower shield to the ground with a heavy thud. Lin Fan stepped aside and leaned against a weathered rock to sit, his breathing steady without a single bead of sweat on his skin. This had been the easiest fight he'd ever experienced. He lifted his wrist and opened his system panel. Name: Lin Fan. Class: Dart Thrower D rank. Level: LV 15-12,000/3-30000. Stamina: 10 plus 5 from equipment. Agility: 18 plus 3 class bonus, plus 12 equipment bonus. Defense: 4. Attack: 28. Max HP: 250 plus 200 equipment bonus. Range: 80 meters. He'd leveled up 4 times in a row. Lin Fan allocated all 4 free attribute points straight into attack. He scrolled further down the panel. Hidden talent: Perfect Mechanics LV 5864/10,000. Effect 1, 100 hit rate. Effect 2, 100 auto collection. Effect 3, 100 item drop. Effect 4, all attacks land critical hits 100 of the time. Effect 5, all attacks ignore 100 of target armor. Lin Fan's fingers trembled the second he read the 5th effect, 100 armor pierce. It completely disregarded any defensive stat an enemy possessed. Every strike dealt full, unmitigated damage directly to their HP bar. No matter how high level or thick-skinned a monster might be, its armor meant nothing to him from this point forward. Suppressing his surging excitement, Lin Fan opened his inventory tab. He froze at the towering numbers. Red Ant Carapace times 8364. Red Ant Venom Mandible times 9200. Acid Gland times 12,000. The glowing red numbers were staggering. He had only landed a single hit on roughly 3,000 ants total. The rest had been instantly massacred by Xin Chong and Yi Wanqing's area damage. How had he wound up with over 20,000 crafting materials? He quickly pieced together the truth. While in a team, every piece of loot dropped by other players' kills would be automatically drawn to him by his 100 auto loot talent, as long as it landed within his range. Xin Chong and Yi Wanqing had fought to exhaustion for 3 hours, yet every single drop from their thousands of kills had silently teleported straight into Lin Fan's inventory via the system. Lin Fan swallowed hard and immediately pulled up the trading system. Materials sold for 100 copper coins each. He listed all nearly 30,000 materials for sale, then closed his panel and turned back to the 3 resting teammates. Xin Chong was rummaging through his inventory, his brows knotted into a tight frown. Strange, his voice rumbled low. We killed 10,000 worker ants, yet no acid glands. Wanqing, did you pick up any loot? Yi Wanqing shook her head. I checked too. My inventory is empty. Could these worker ants simply drop no materials? That can't be right. Mutant worker ants always drop crafting materials. Even with a low drop rate, we should have hundreds. Does this unclaimed ruin carry special loot rules? Su Shouting sucked the last sip of her bubble tea and mumbled a reply. Come on, Brother Chong. Do you really need those copper coins? We're here for EXP to level up. Our real goal is killing the Ant Queen. Loot doesn't matter one bit. You're right. Xin Chong dropped the subject and pulled a brand new tower shield out of his system inventory. This shield was pure silver-white metal, far lighter than his broken one, its edges glinting with razor-sharp cold light. Rest for 2 hours. After 2 hours, we'll switch tactics. We'll charge straight into the large tunnel on the right, bypass the wandering perimeter worker ants, and strike the heart of the nest. The real grueling fight awaits us deep inside the mound. All the soldier ants carried deadly venom. Yi Wanqing nodded and leaned against a boulder to close her eyes and recuperate. Su Shouting pulled a bag of potato chips from her robe pocket, tearing it open and crunching loudly as she ate. Lin Fan walked over and sat quietly beside them. More than an hour slipped by, and the sky turned dark and overcast. Silence hung heavy over the bluff, broken only by howling wind. Just as Su Shouting finished her last chip and stretched lazily, Lin Fan's wrist panel vibrated violently with an alert. Your listed goods have all sold. 3 million copper coins deposited to your balance. 3 million copper coins. Lin Fan's wrist shook as he stared at his updated balance. This fortune could buy multiple safe properties, yet money only served one purpose: buying survival power. While the others rested, Lin Fan opened the shop and searched for Dart Thrower Armor Set. A long list of equipment panels popped up, sorted from white to purple tier. Purple tier represented the highest grade gear purchasable directly with coins in the shop. Far rarer orange and red tier equipment could only be obtained through low-rate dungeon drops or by fusing purple gear. 2 purple pieces fused to make 1 orange piece. 2 orange pieces made 1 red piece. The fusion success rate sat at a mere 1. If fusion failed, both pieces of equipment were destroyed entirely without a single scrap. Ordinary players could never get their hands on purple gear, and large guilds had to drain all their resources just to gamble for a single red tier piece. Lin Fan scrolled down the shop page, his gaze locking onto the purple set's price tag, 1 million copper coins per piece. He gasped in shock at the staggering cost. His newly acquired 3 million fortune would only buy 3 pieces. He was about to drain it all. The bigger the investment, the greater the reward. Lin Fan took a deep breath and gritted his teeth, tapping purchase 3 times in quick succession. Obtained equipment, Grey Wolf gloves purple tier. Obtained equipment, Grey Wolf chestplate purple tier. Obtained equipment, Grey Wolf bracers purple tier. Over 3 million coins vanished from his balance in an instant without so much as a system chime. But when he reviewed the 3 pieces' stats, the sharp twinge of regret faded away. Grey Wolf gloves, agility plus 24, attack plus 20, fires an additional dart with every throw. Grey Wolf chestplate, stamina plus 20, defense plus 30, max HP plus 1000, blocks 10 of incoming damage. Grey Wolf bracers, defense plus 30, attack plus 20, plus 3 critical hit chance. Without hesitation, Lin Fan clicked equip all. A warm surge of power washed over his entire body, making every breath feel lighter. He quickly pulled up his updated stat panel. Name, Lin Fan. Class, Dart Thrower D rank. Level, LV 15 12000/33000. Stamina, 25 plus 20 equipment bonus. Agility, 30 plus 24 equipment bonus. Defense, 64 plus 60 equipment bonus. Attack, 68 plus 40 equipment bonus. Max HP, 1050. Lin Fan clenched his fist as he stared at his skyrocketing stats. With purple tier armor bolstering his defenses, his maximum HP had finally broken 1000. He was no longer a fragile glass cannon. This remedied the core weakness of D-rank Awakeners. They received pitifully few free attribute points per level, so stat gains from leveling paled in comparison to higher tier players unless they could acquire orange or red gear. He rapidly calculated his total damage output in his head. 30 points of agility granted 10 darts per second. Combined with the glove's bonus projectile effect, he unleashed 12 darts per second with both hands throwing simultaneously. His base attack, plus the bonus from falling star darts, brought each projectile to 118 base damage. With guaranteed critical hits and armor ignore, each dealt 236 damage. 12 darts per second multiplied by 236 damage equaled a staggering 2,832 total damage per second. His single target burst damage was terrifying. Even so, against the countless swarming mutant red ants deep within the anthill, picking off enemies one by one with his darts would still be far too slow. Once they ventured into the nest, Yuanqing and Xinchang would remain responsible for clearing large swathes of ants with area attacks. His safest strategy would still be tagging every monster to collect passive EXP shares. Rest time's up. Xinchang stood, holding his new shield. Everyone get ready. We're heading straight into the tunnel. The 4 quickly marched to the base of the mound, before the largest main tunnel entrance. The opening stood over 3 meters tall, wide enough to drive a truck through. Xinchang charged ahead as their vanguard. The party reformed their diamond formation. Upon entering the hollow tunnel chamber, they stopped dead in the center of the open space, avoiding the earthen walls to prevent ambushes from ants that crawled along vertical surfaces. Only minutes after entering the tunnel, patrolling soldier ants spotted the intruders. Their antennae twitched frantically, sending danger signals deep into the nest. The entire earthen mound seemed to awaken instantly. The ground rumbled as hordes of dark red giant ants surged out from countless branching tunnels in every direction, flowing forward like an unending tide. Lin Fan casually activated scan. Mutant red ant soldier ant level, LV18. Defense, 150. Attack, 240. Max HP, 2500. The moment the scan results appeared, both Xinchang and Yuanqing's faces turned grim. Their defense and HP values were more than double those of the worker ants outside. These soldier ants have far too much armor. Xinchang tightened his grip on his battle axe and whispered sharply. Killing one takes more than twice the time it took for the outer workers. Hold the line for one wave first. If we lose control of the swarm, retreat immediately. No pointless prolonged fighting. His words barely faded before the soldier ant horde fully encircled the party. Combat erupted at once. Yuanqing and Su Shaoting unleashed their spells without delay, fireballs and toxic mist exploding within the ant swarm. Yet their advance ground to a crawl this time. The soldier ants boasted thick carapaces and could spit highly corrosive venom from long distances. The party members' HP bars steadily ticked downward one after another. If not for Su Xiaodong's wide-ranging healing rain counteracting the constant venom damage, the entire squad's health would have been depleted long ago. The encirclement's tightening, our formations getting crushed. Xinchang eyed the shrinking empty space around them and issued an urgent order. Reform formation. Wanqing, Lin Fan, form a triangle with me. Xiaodong, stand dead center. Switching from diamond to triangle formation concentrated all defensive power into a tighter core. Xiaodong, cast your toxic mist toward Lin Fan to cover his flank. Xinchang roared. Wanqing, hold your own sector and use ice spells to support Lin Fan. Don't waste mana covering my position. Xinchang truly earned his title as guild vice president, calm and decisive amid crisis. If they stabilized this triangular formation, they could anchor themselves firmly in place to complete the second phase of their nest purge. Lin Fan originally only planned to slack off in the team and leech EXP, yet the sudden turn of events forced him to hold down a whole flank of defense. He flipped both hands outward sharply, falling star darts pinched between his fingertips. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. 12 darts launched each second, spilling forth like a cloud of black light. His 100 armor-pierce talent activated unconditionally, rendering the soldier ants' towering 150 defense carapaces as fragile as paper. Coupled with guaranteed critical hits and the continuous HP drain from Su Xiaodong's toxic mist, the soldier ants charging toward Lin Fan dropped at an eerie pace. One fell every second. While the efficiency was mediocre, it was still manageable. Whenever groups of soldier ants tried to close in, Yi Wanqing's ice spell froze them perfectly. Xinchang was locked in melee combat on the opposite side, his battle axe swinging with thunderous crashes as his HP plummeted rapidly. Fortunately, most of Su Xiaotong's healing spells targeted him, barely keeping him alive. By contrast, Lin Fan's side proved surprisingly effortless. No mana costing skills, no mana calculations, only a mechanical loop of throwing, retrieving, and throwing again. His automated stream of projectiles pinned every incoming soldier ant 5 meters away before they could reach him. Half an hour later, their battle formation stabilized completely. Though more soldier ants kept pouring out, none could break through the overlapping firepower of the three frontliners. Well done. Xinchang spat blood-tinted saliva, his spirit lifting. Hold this rhythm. Last another 3 hours at most, and we'll wipe out most of the soldier ants here. Then we'll all rest. 2 hours slipped by. Everyone's stamina drained rapidly. Corrosion riddled massive holes through Xinchang's armor. Yi Wanqing's spellcasting speed halved. Su Xiaodong could barely lift her staff to cast. Lin Fan's throwing motions never paused, but his wrists ached fiercely, his stamina meter teetering on the brink of exhaustion. Just as everyone thought an hour more of fighting would earn them a reprieve, boom! A deafening roar rumbled from the deepest end of the largest ant tunnel. The roar reverberated through stone walls, sending the already battle-weary soldier ants into a berserk frenzy. They charged the formation recklessly, sacrificing themselves without hesitation. Worse still, an oppressive aura that pricked every scalp drew rapidly closer through the main tunnel. Retreat. Fall back now. Sensing mortal danger, Xinchang barked the retreat order instantly. But it was too late. The rear exit was choked solid by a tide of worker ants, who stacked their bodies to seal off every escape route entirely. The soldier ants' assault grew more ferocious than ever. Xinchang sustained heavy frontline damage, and Su Xiaodong's healing output could barely offset his ongoing HP loss. At that moment, a colossal creature several times larger than any soldier ant slowly crawled out of the deep cavern pit. Dark purple veins snaked across its entire body, 6 compound eyes blazing with menacing ferocity. Lin Fan activated his scan skill. Mutant Red Ant Queen. Level, LV 25. Defense, 430. Attack, 800. HP, 20,000. 20,000 HP. 430 defense. The second Xinchang laid eyes on the stat panel, his face drained of all color. None of their 4 party members possessed attack or magic damage high enough to bypass its defense. Every strike they landed would deal 0 damage. Staying here meant certain death. Xinchang forced calm into his mind and roared. Everyone, cluster toward the exit. Wanqing, swap positions with Lin Fan. Get close to the tunnel mouth. I'll hold the Ant Queen's aggro. Wanqing, unleash your full power to blast open the wall of worker ants blocking the exit. Carve even a single opening, and you 3 run immediately. Bloodshot, He raised his warp tower shield. He planned to absorb all of the Ant Queen's damage with his own body to buy the others a chance to flee. Facing a boss with 800 attack, this choice spelled certain death. Just as he stepped forward to sacrifice himself, a hand shot out from beside him and seized his arm tight. Xinqiang twisted around. Lin Fan never halted his non-stop dart throws, his tone firm and urgent. "Captain Shun, leave this giant monster to me." Lin Fan fixed his gaze on the towering Ant Queen ahead. "Hold off the soldier ants and cover me. Kid, don't joke around." Xinqiang's voice cracked with desperation. 20,000 HP. Your damage won't even scratch its health bar. "I'm not joking." Lin Fan released his grip and stepped half a pace forward, positioning himself between Xinqiang and the queen. "Block the soldier ants. Give me time." Xinqiang stared at his back, grinding his teeth. "Fine. Focus all your firepower. Leave the rest to me." Lin Fan's mind raced at top speed, calculating every detail. 40 falling star darts total. With armor pierce and guaranteed critical hits, each dart dealt 236 damage. If all 40 struck at once, that amounted to only 9,440 damage, not even half the queen's HP pool. Worse yet, the open hollow of the anthill lacked rocky slopes to exploit for automatic loot retrieval. Once darts embedded in the queen's flesh, they would be lost forever. After exhausting all 40 projectiles, he would be left defenseless, unless he knocked his fresh darts against the handles of the ones already lodged inside her, jarring the embedded metal free and sending them flying loose. The moment a dart slipped free of the queen's body and fell, the system's auto-collect talent would yank it back instantly. He would fire 28 darts to deal damage, keeping 12 in reserve as knockback projectiles to cycle his ammo infinitely. Once the strategy clicked into place, Lin Fan set both hands in motion simultaneously. The faint glow of his gray wolf gloves blazed bright. 12 darts per second. 28 falling star darts screamed through the air, streaking straight for the Ant Queen. The queen's 6 massive legs dug into the mud as her hulking frame twisted to dodge. It was useless. 100 hit rate ensured not a single dart missed its mark. Squelch, squelch, squelch. 236, 236, 236. Dark red damage values burst in dense clusters above the Ant Queen's head. Her 430 defense meant nothing against armor pierce. Toxic green bodily fluid splattered everywhere with every hit. The queen let out an ear-splitting shriek, locking all 6 compound eyes solely onto Lin Fan. Total aggro shifted to him. A split second later, a glob of yellow-green venom spewed from her serrated mandibles, and her mountainous body charged straight for the party's formation. Their escape route remained completely blocked, swarmed by soldier ants to the rear. Xinqiang bellowed, lifting his shield with one hand and bracing his shoulder against its surface, dropping into a low crouch to absorb the charge head-on. Crash! Cracks spiderwebbed across the shield's surface in an instant before it shattered entirely, scattering metal shards across the mud. The impact sent Xinqiang stumbling backward 5 or 6 paces, his boots carving 2 deep furrows through the black muck. The queen's 800 attack plus venom corrosion slashed his 3,200 max HP down below 2,000 in a single blow. Su Xiaodang twirled her staff so fast it blurred. Healing rain. Heal. Hang on, Brother Chong. Swarms of green light flooded Xinqiang, regenerating his HP constantly, yet barely offset the ongoing poison damage ticking away his health. "I can hold on." Xinqiang spat blood from his mouth, but everyone could see the truth. He would not survive a second direct hit. Lin Fan had no bandwidth to spare for the frontline tank. All 28 damage darts were embedded deep within the Ant Queen's flesh, leaving only 12 projectiles remaining in his grasp. His hands crossed and twisted. The 12 reserve falling star darts shot forth, not to pierce flesh, but to strike the exposed handles of the lodged darts. Clink, clink, clink. Metallic collisions echoed through the anthill. Fresh darts slammed precisely into the protruding tails of the embedded ones, the brutal force jarring the metal free from the queen's body and sending them flying loose. The dislodged darts fell through the air, vanishing into white light before hitting the mud, returned to his inventory. The 12 knockback darts also vanished, restocking his ammo fully in an instant. Lin Fan curled his palms. The retrieved darts materialized once more within his grasp. Throw. Hit. Knock loose. Recycle. The cycle spun nonstop. The Ant Queen's HP bar plummeted at an impossible rate. 3/4 gone. Half gone. The queen flew into unbridled rage. Her forelegs scraped furrows into the mud, her body arching backward. Second charge, faster and far more violent than the first. Xiaodang, fall back. Shin Chong flipped his wrist, yanking his battered, pockmarked spare shield from his inventory. He gripped its inner frame with both hands, bracing to meet the queen's skull on collision. Bang! The worn shield crumbled to dust on impact. A clear cracking sound rang out from Shin Chong's arms as he went flying backward, slamming into the stone cavern wall before rolling into the mire. His HP bar blazed near black-red, dropping to a mere 500. Su Xiaodong never paused her healing spells for a single second. Without her constant heals, that blow would have killed him outright. With the frontline tank down, a massive gap tore open in their formation. Soldier ants swarmed towards Su Xiaodong and Yi Wanqing. Yi Wanqing bit her lip raw, thrusting her staff forward and alternating ice spells and fireballs to fend off the horde. But against swarms of high-level soldier ants, her damage and crowd control proved woefully insufficient. 2 soldier ants' serrated mandibles sliced through her mage robes. Her mana shield shattered, and half her HP vanished in an instant. Forget me. Protect Lin Fan. Yi Wanqing conjured an ice wall to block the advancing monsters. Only 2 more full cycles of dart recycling remained. Then the Ant Queen would die. But the Queen refused to grant them that window. She lifted her forelegs off the ground, heaving her entire bulk upward. Third charge, diving straight down from above. A colossal shadow swallowed all 4 party members, targeting Lin Fan exclusively. If that blow landed, every last one of them would perish. Shin Chong scrambled upright in the sludge with a ragged roar, propping himself up on his broken battle axe planted across his chest, his boots rooted firm in the mud. He no longer had a shield to hide behind. Come on! He screamed until his throat split raw. The Ant Queen's massive body crashed downward. In the split fraction of a second before impact, 12 streaks of black light erupted from Lin Fan's palms, piercing the Queen's unprotected eye sockets and throat. Her last sliver of HP depleted completely. The Ant Queen's enormous frame froze mid-air, inertia carrying her weight forward as she plummeted. Boom! Her corpse crashed less than half a meter in front of Shin Chong, splattering black mud all over his head and face. The Queen twitched twice, then fell motionless. A heartbeat later, her body dissolved into a shower of white light and vanished entirely. Defeated Mutant Red Ant Queen LV-25. EXP plus 500,000. The moment the Queen died, every red ant in the cavern froze mid-movement. Their antennae twitched erratically for several seconds before they turned and fled back into the tunnels lining the cavern walls. Worker ants scattered in all directions to escape. A dozen seconds later, silence filled the hollow, broken only by the 4 party members' ragged gasps. Shin Chong's battle axe clanged to the mud. He stared blankly at the empty space where the Queen had stood, then twisted to glance at Lin Fan, his mouth opening and closing without a single word escaping. Let's move, Lin Fan shouted. The stench of blood will draw other monsters. We need to evacuate immediately. The 4 stumbled along their entry path for 20 minutes, putting the entire earthen mound far behind them. Once they confirmed no monsters pursued, all 4 collapsed onto a weed-covered hillside with heavy thuds. A cool breeze swept over them, clearing the acrid acid stench from the air at last. No one spoke, only panting heavily. Shin Chong lay flat on his back, staring up at the murky gray sky, then let out a rough, weary chuckle. Brother Lin, I take back everything I said back at the cafe. Your damage output outshines even S-rank awakeners. Su Xiaodong clutched her chest, her face deathly pale. That scared me half to death. I thought we'd all end up dried ant jerky today. Yi Wanqing leaned against a boulder and chugged an entire red healing potion, her color slowly returning. She turned her gaze to Lin Fan. That continuous stream of attacks dealt impossibly high damage values. How did you pull it off? Lin Fan leaned against a tree trunk, answering casually. My purple tear gloves grant a critical hit bonus effect. Luck was on my side. Every dart landed on weak points. Yi Wanqing dropped the subject without pressing further. Everyone held hidden trump cards, secrets they preferred not to share. The 4 supported one another back to their vehicle, recovered a small portion of their stamina, then drove toward the city district. As the car jolted over rough ground, Lin Fan glanced sideways at his inventory panel out of the corner of his eye. 3 treasure chests rested quietly within its slots, loot dropped by the Ant Queen. He did not open them, sliding his finger away from the screen and leaning back against the seat. Shin Chong sat right beside him, and Yi Wanqing's gaze drifted toward him every few moments. No rush. He would examine the chests once he returned home. He pushed open his front door. A faint coal stove scent lingered in the air. Lin Fan set the oil paper-wrapped roast chicken onto a chipped wooden table. Yaya sprinted out from the inner room, shuffling along in brand new pink slippers. her nose twitching as she sniffed greedily. "Brother, you bought roast chicken." She crept close, carefully peeling back one corner of the oil paper, and rich steaming meat aroma flooded the room instantly. Lin Fan tore off a chicken drumstick and pressed it into her hand. "Eat it while it's hot. I'm heading to my room. Don't call me unless it's an emergency." Yaya nodded furiously as she gnawed the drumstick, her cheeks stuffed full of meat. Lin Fan turned and entered his bedroom, latching the iron door shut tight behind him. Exhaustion weighed heavy on his bones, and he collapsed backward onto his old spring mattress. The cushion creaked loudly beneath his weight. Tired as he was, his mind buzzed with alert excitement. He immediately pulled up the system panel on his wrist and opened his stats page. Name: Lin Fan. Class: Dart Thrower D rank. Level: LV 16 420,000/500,000. Stamina: 25 plus 20 equipment bonus. Dexterity: 30 plus 3 class bonus, plus 24 equipment bonus. Defense: 64 plus 60 equipment bonus. Attack: 68 plus 40 equipment bonus. Max HP: 1050 plus 1000 equipment bonus. Throwing range: 85 meters. He had indeed leveled up to 16. The Ant Queen alone gifted 500,000 EXP, paired with the thousands of minor ants they'd slain. He only needed a final 80,000 EXP to break through to level 17. Level progression grew exponentially harder with each tier. If word spread of his leveling speed, professional players from major guilds would be utterly stunned. Lin Fan allocated his newly earned free attribute point straight to attack. Attack: 69 plus 40 equipment bonus. He scrolled downward, his gaze landing on the talent tab. Hidden talent: Perfect Mechanics LV5 2100/10,000. 2,100 total kill counts logged. The brutal battle inside the anthill had only raised his proficiency this much. Lin Fan massaged the space between his brows. He needed 10,000 total kills to advance his talent to level 6. Nearly 8,000 more kills remained. He would not grind enough to hit the threshold in the coming days. Closing his stats panel, he opened his inventory. The front slots overflowed with piles of glowing red crafting materials. Red Ant Venom Mandible times 4,200, Red Ant Carapace times 3,300, and Acid Gland times 1,000. Over 8,500 total crafting materials looted. All the spoils Xinchang and Yi Wanxing had fought tooth and nail to farm were swept entirely into Lin Fan's inventory by his 100 auto loot talent. Not a single scrap left for his teammates. Lin Fan instantly pulled up the trading system. With practiced ease, he selected all materials and listed them for sale, setting a uniform price of 100 copper coins per item. Guild players constantly sought these base crafting materials for gear upgrades. His listings would sell out instantly without fail. Once the listings finished uploading, he exhaled a long breath and fixed his eyes on the final 3 slots of his inventory. These held the day's true prize. The second he struck the killing blow on the Ant Queen, 3 streaks of white light had flown straight to his inventory. The chaos of combat forced him to hold off checking them until now. With silence surrounding him at last, his anticipation surged uncontrollably. 3 treasure chests sat lined neatly in the inventory grid. 2 blazed with dazzling orange radiance, illuminating the entire inventory interface with warm light. The third was a dull, lusterless white chest. Lin Fan froze for a beat. A level 25 elite boss that nearly wiped their entire party only dropped a white tier item? It was equivalent to splurging for a luxury feast and receiving a pack of cheap paper napkins as the complimentary gift. Miserable loot odds indeed. He set the white chest aside for later, pressing his thumb firmly against the first orange treasure chest. Open. Brilliant orange light exploded across his field of vision. A pair of tall boots etched with dark gold filigree hovered suspended mid-air. Obtained equipment: Ant Shadow Boots, orange tier. Stats: Dexterity, plus 60, Attack, plus 100, Special Effect, 30 Poison Immunity, Gem Socket. Empty. Lin Fan's wrist jolted, nearly closing the panel by accident. His heart hammered wildly in his chest. 60 bonus Dexterity. His total dexterity before this piece only hit 30. This single item doubled his stat outright. Dexterity governed movement speed and throwing attack speed. Once equipped, he would practically fly across the ground. Then the attack stat, an additional 100 points. Lin Fan rapidly crunched the numbers in his head. His base attack stood at 69, boosted by 100 from the boots, plus the 50 flat damage bonus from his falling star darts. Each individual dart's base damage jumped straight to 215. Coupled with his talent's permanent 100 critical hit and 100 armor pierce, Every thrown dart dealt a solid 438 damage flat. This calculation did not even account for his Grey Wolf Glove's 12 dart per second passive effect. His total damage output per second would exceed 5,000. No tank could withstand that firepower. Not to mention the 30 poison immunity passive. When facing venom-spewing monsters like today's ant swarm, his survival capability skyrocketed. It even came with an extra empty gem socket, a feature exclusive to Orange tier equipment. Truly worthy of its orange rank, every single stat line outperformed his full purple set by a landslide. He clicked extract equipment. A faint glow washed over him as the boots automatically replaced his tattered sneakers. They carried none of the expected heaviness, instead feeling impossibly light. He twisted his ankles to test mobility. The boots fit like a second skin. Next, he opened the second orange treasure chest. The radiant glow faded to reveal its contents. Obtained item, Mutant Ant Queen Core Orange Tier. A fist-sized translucent crystal, deep magenta through and through, materialized in his inventory slot. It granted no flat stat bonuses, nor did the system attach any description of its function. Yet marked Orange Tier, it was undeniably an ultra-rare treasure. It might be used to carve gem sockets into orange gear or craft high-grade combat potions. He would ask knowledgeable players about its use at a later date. Lin Fan stored the core safely, his gaze finally drifting to the plain white chest. What mediocre loot could this blank, white container possibly hold? He tapped open without a second thought. Obtained item, Fire Red Ant Egg Hatchable. An egg the size of a duck's egg popped into view. Its smooth surface glowed faint crimson, crisscrossed by faint vein-like textures. This gave it an unsettling, otherworldly appearance. Fire Red Ant Egg. Hatchable? Lin Fan stared blankly, utterly dumbfounded. Was the system expecting him to become an ant breeder? What purpose would a hatched ant serve? Some trivial vanity pet. What would he do if the fully grown insect turned violent? Anything dropped by the system will never harm players by default, excluding cases where players use those items to hurt others, of course. If that's the rule, hatching the egg should pose no danger at all. He would head to the front lines in a few days, leaving Yaya all alone. A tiny creature to keep her company would cheer her up. He could raise it as a pet for her. Lin Fan retrieved the Fire Red Ant Egg from his inventory right away. It felt heavy in his palms. Its shell was not hard, instead slightly elastic. Stranger still, warmth seeped out continuously, as if something inside pulsed gently. He stood, pushed open his bedroom door, and walked toward Yaya's room. Yaya sat on the edge of her bed, gnawing on the last chicken bone. Yaya, stop eating for a second. I've got something to show you. Lin Fan had both hands behind his back. Yaya tossed the bone aside and quickly wiped her greasy fingers on a piece of paper. What cool thing is it? A new picture storybook. Lin Fan stretched out his hands and unfurled his palms. The dark crimson egg glinted under the lamplight. Yaya's eyes blew wide open. She felt no fear, only curiosity. She leaned in to sniff it, then poked its surface lightly with one finger. Brother, is this a giant chicken egg? It's no chicken egg. This is your new pet for me. Right now it's still an egg. You have to hatch it yourself and raise it little by little afterward. Yaya immediately cupped the egg with both hands, holding it carefully against her chest to soak up its warmth. A pet? Brother, will it grow into a puppy? Or a kitten? That's a secret for now. I'll let you look forward to it. Lin Fan had no intention of telling her it would hatch into a massive ant. Do you like it? I love it. Yaya nodded hard, then suddenly frowned in worry. But brother, how do I hatch it? Do I need to find a mother hen? You don't need to worry about that. Lin Fan pulled out his phone and opened the local shopping app on the spot. He searched for a high-precision temperature-controlled incubator, priced at 2,000 coins. Without hesitation, he placed and paid for the order instantly. I bought a special incubator for you. It'll be delivered tomorrow. Just wait for it to arrive. Yaya hopped around with joy, refusing to let go of the egg. Lin Fan told her to store it somewhere safe, then turned and headed back to his bedroom. He shut the door. Leaning back against the headboard again, he glanced at the top right corner of his wrist system panel. A red countdown ticked down second by second. He had only 4 full days left until he departed for the northern front lines. For days, yet he still needed over 8,000 monster kills. Ordinary wild zones barely spawned 800 monsters, let alone 8,000. The Ant Ruin dungeon yesterday was pure luck. Opportunities like that would never come every day. Only one viable option crossed his mind: the cracked purple portal deep inside the changing rooms of the abandoned football stadium. This was a high-level unknown dungeon. Yesterday he'd only dared peek in from outside. The suffocating oppressive aura had forced him to retreat. Things were different now. He owned 2 purple-tier pieces of gear plus a top-tier orange set. His maximum HP exceeded 1,000. His base strike damage had doubled, and he could unleash 12 darts per second with his broken armor piercing passive. Even monsters with 400 to 500 defense would fall in mere seconds under his firepower. With this strength at his disposal, he had to explore that dungeon. Otherwise, he'd carry this massive proficiency deficit all the way to the front lines. He made up his mind. He would venture into the dungeon tomorrow, hoping it would meet his expectations. The crisp chill of dawn hung in the air. Lin Fan wove through dilapidated streets straight toward the football stadium. Something felt off about the place today. Rat tunnels still riddled the ground, yet the entire area was deathly quiet. None of the shadowy rat monsters that usually darted around could be seen anywhere. Lin Fan walked to the center of the pitch and stamped his foot hard on the stone ground. A faint squeak drifted out from a crack in the rotting bleachers nearby. Then silence fell once more. The monsters had grown cautious. They caught his scent and dared not show their faces. He had no patience to hunt the hiding weaklings. He strode forward and turned into the changing rooms. He pulled open the third rusted metal locker door. The purple portal hung inside, its edges crisscrossed with old fissures. His system panel popped up instantly. Unknown damage, dungeon entrance detected. Enter? Warning, monster levels within the dungeon are unknown. Team entry recommended. Team up? He had no party members, and with his current stats and overpowered hidden talents, a team was unnecessary anyway. Lin Fan tapped the confirm button. White light wrapped around his body, and an intense weightlessness swept over him. When he opened his eyes again, the scenery had completely shifted. Smooth bluestone paving lay beneath his feet. The square chamber spanned roughly 200 square meters, devoid of the putrid stench of monsters. A circular raised altar sat dead center of the room. Lin Fan tilted his head to look upward. The ceiling stretched impossibly high, at least 100 zhong overhead. Shrouded in haze that hid its true height, a jagged crack split the ceiling's center. His gaze dropped back down. Embedded in the altar's exact middle was a palm-sized conical crystal. A blinding red beam shot straight upward from the crystal's tip, piercing directly into the ceiling crack. It was either funneling energy or acting as the core of some stabilizing formation. The space was otherwise empty. Lin Fan let his arms hang loose, his shoes sliding gently across the stone as he edged toward the altar's rim. The moment his shoe touched the steps, the chamber shuddered violently. The bluestone slabs ground against one another. The crack overhead was wrenched wider by an unseen brute force. An enormous claw descended through the split. It belonged to a rat, unnaturally massive, its skin covered in thick black keratin. An overwhelming, suffocating pressure crashed down onto his chest. Boom. The giant claw slammed onto the altar, fully cupping the conical crystal beneath its palm in a sealed, impenetrable grip. Lin Fan scrambled backward to create distance, twisting his wrists to ready falling star darts between his fingertips. He activated his scan skill. Attack. Defense. Nothing but question marks. Lin Fan stared at the floating stat window. For the first time, he'd encountered a monster whose stats refused to display concrete numbers. Judging by the quantity of question marks, for mint stats over 1,000, 5 meant tens of thousands. Tens of thousands of defense. No Awakener at his current stage could scratch a monster with such high armor. No wonder the claw had frozen in place. It shielded the crystal with unrivaled defense. What good is sky-high defense against me? Lin Fan did not hesitate. He flung both hands outward, 30 falling star darts screaming. His unconditional 100 hit rate and 100 armor pierce triggered instantly. Sharp dart tips ignored the thick black keratin entirely, burying themselves deep in flesh. 438. 438. 438. 30 blood-red damage values floated neatly above the giant claw. From deep within the widened black ceiling crack came a short, confused huff. The claw shifted slightly, lifting 2 inches off the altar. Instead of swatting Lin Fan, one thick stubby finger extended and curled back and forth in his direction, a clear taunt. Anger flared in Lin Fan's chest. He flicked his wrist hard, launching his remaining 10 falling star darts. Squelch after squelch echoed as all 10 darts embedded fully into the taunting finger, fresh damage numbers popping up nonstop. A split second later, every hair on Lin Fan's neck stood on end. He reached instinctively for more darts, only to find his palms empty. All 40 of his falling star darts were stuck deep in the monster's finger. They had not pierced all the way through. Marking them as attached objects, the 100 auto-loot talent could not activate. He was out of ammunition. The Maul system could not be opened inside a dungeon. A dart thrower without darts was nothing more than a sitting target. If he fled now, The 40,000 coins worth of falling star darts would be lost entirely, a devastating loss. Lin Fan debated charging in close quarters to yank the darts free when the giant finger suddenly retracted. The entire claw pulled upward, retreating back through the ceiling crack. The wide split overhead snapped shut with a sharp crack, and the red energy beam cut off completely. Lin Fan stood frozen in shock. It ran away? A monster with tens of thousands of defense simply fled? This dungeon was riddled with bizarre mysteries. Fueled by his sky-high 90 dexterity stat, Lin Fan pushed off the ground and blurred into a streak, darting straight to the altar's center. The crystal sat nestled in its tapered slot, surrounded by an unreadable ring of runes carved into the stone. No time to overthink. He'd take it first and ask questions later. He reached out, gripped the crystal, and pulled upward hard. Click. The crystal dislodged from its slot. He tossed it straight into his inventory, sprinted to the chamber's outer edge, and jammed his finger against the exit button. A flash of white light later, Lin Fan's boots landed back on the muddy floor of the dilapidated changing room. Even after walking out of the abandoned stadium, his mind buzzed with confusion. What kind of dungeon was that? What tier of beast owned that massive claw? And what purpose did the conical crystal serve? Lin Fan had no answers to his endless questions. His first priority was opening the mall to restock falling star darts. He set the purchase quantity to 100. 100,000 copper coins were deducted instantly, and 100 polished black falling star darts filled his inventory slots. A sense of safety washed over him once more. He could not farm talent proficiency here today, so he headed for his usual grinding spot. Lin Fan hopped on a shared bicycle and raced toward the training field. He paid the entry fee at the purple portal and stepped into the dungeon. A level 15 mutant gray bear barely poked its head out before a hail of darts turned it into a pincushion. Exit, sell materials, pay the fee, re-enter. He spent the day trapped inside. Each run spawned 50 bears. The entry fee cost 2,000 coins, while selling all harvested materials earned him 15,000 coins per cycle. By 6 o'clock in the evening, when the dungeon forcefully teleported him out for the 20th time, Lin Fan collapsed onto the concrete bench. Hours on end of repeating the exact same motion had worn him thin. I'm sick of this grind. He shook his aching arms and pulled open his system panel. He had leveled up to LV-17. He'd earned over 600,000 coins, yet proficiency was far from ranking up. His grinding efficiency remained far too low. Darkness swallowed the sky entirely. Lin Fan dragged his tired feet home and pushed open the iron door, greeted by a wave of warm air. Yaya hunched over a table in the room's corner, her gaze fixed intently on the incubator. The fire-red ant egg lay quietly inside, glowing with faint crimson light. Brother, you're home. It moved again just now. Yaya pointed excitedly at the incubator. Watch it carefully, don't lean too close. I'm worn out today. I'm going to lie down in my room. Lin Fan ruffled her hair, then walked straight into his bedroom and locked the door behind him. He sat down on his hard plank bed and opened his inventory, retrieving the 2 mysterious items he'd acquired that day. In his left hand rested the mutant ant queen core. Its deep magenta surface shimmered with an alluring glow. In his right hand sat the dull, lusterless conical crystal he'd pried free from the strange dungeon altar. The crystal looked worthless no matter how he examined it, and he had no clue what keywords to search online. He set it aside for later. Lin Fan browsed forums and search websites for information on the mutant ant queen core. Most threads stated it was used to forge weapons, armor, or craft potions, boosting toughness and durability. None of these benefits seemed particularly useful to him. Lost in thought, his wrist panel vibrated softly. A private message popped up, sent by Yi Wanqing. Are you free to grab dinner tomorrow? The school beauty reaching out first. Lin Fan raised an eyebrow. As a low D rank awakener, he could not fathom why she sought him out. What's this about? Lin Fan typed back. Nothing much, just a chat. Shinchong and Su Xiaodang will come too. Will you join us? There was definitely an ulterior motive. Why seek him out otherwise? For his low level? Or his plain, unremarkable looks? Sure. Where tomorrow? State Guest Tower, room 302, 7 o'clock. Lin Fan closed his panel and tossed both crystals back into his inventory. Still puzzling over their functions, his eyes slowly drifted shut. The State Guest Tower boasted towering stone steps. Lin Fan stood at the bottom, glancing up at its gilded signage. Choosing such an upscale restaurant for a meal meant they either had important business to discuss or money to burn. He pushed through the revolving glass door. A hostess in a cheongsam greeted him with a practiced smile. After he gave the room number, she led him upstairs, the click of her heels muffled completely by the thick carpet. The private dining room door swung open. Xin Chong, Yi Wanqing, and Su Xiaodong already sat around the round table. The atmosphere felt stiff, as if they'd been waiting specifically for his arrival. Captain Shun, everyone. Lin Fan greeted them and pulled out a chair to sit. He barely knew them from yesterday's temporary team. He was unsure how Xin Chong would react if he called him Brother Chong right away. None of that. Xin Chong waved a hand and slammed his broad palm against the tabletop. Don't call me Captain Shun. That was only for our temporary dungeon party yesterday. Brother Chong works fine. He lifted his teacup without drinking, cutting straight to the point. Wanqing said you signed up for the government frontline conscription order, correct? Lin Fan nodded. Have you read the full conscription terms? Xin Chong stared at him with a cold, unyielding gaze. Defense zones are assigned randomly once you reach the front lines. Do you understand? I do. And the mortality rate. Xin Chong set his cup down, its base clinking sharply against the table. Official records label it extremely high risk. I'll tell you the real figure. 60%. The number sent a jolt of tension down Lin Fan's spine. He'd browsed forums before, but no one posted exact stats. Everyone only described the front lines as a meat grinder. 60% meant only 4 out of 10 recruits would return alive. Xin Chong gave him no time to absorb the news, tapping his fingers rhythmically on the table. 4-person squads form the basic combat unit on the front lines. You must assemble a full team before departure. Officials will not split existing parties. Solitary recruits are paired randomly upon arrival. You could end up stuck with 3 support healers and 1 tank, or 4 reckless melee fighters. When monster hordes attack, who holds the front? Who handles ranged damage? How will you survive? Lone players die fastest. That's the brutal truth. At this point, Lin Fan already knew why they'd invited him here. Join our squad. Wanqing handles area crowd control and magic damage. I tank all incoming hits, and Xiaodong provides sustained healing. We only lack 1 member. Someone capable of instantly eliminating high-threat targets in critical moments. He fixed his gaze on Lin Fan. Will you come with us? Lin Fan picked up his water glass and took a sip, cold liquid sliding down his throat. He desperately wanted a party. Without Xin Chong absorbing damage and Su Xiaodong pouring all her healing on him yesterday, he would never have even laid eyes on the Ant Queen. But a problem lingered. His 100 auto loot and other overpowered hidden talents could not stay concealed forever with prolonged party time. Revealing his trump cards too early at merely level 16 would bring disaster, not fortune. Brother Chong. He set the glass down, his voice steady. I'm just a D-rank awakener. The damage I dealt yesterday was mostly blind luck. You 3 are elite A and S rank talents. I don't fit in your team. Lin Fan. Yi Wanqing spoke up, her tone flat and unemotional. We judge strength based on battlefield performance, not your initial awakening rank. The damage output and attack efficiency you displayed yesterday far surpass D-rank limits. Our invitation comes from an objective assessment of your skill. Lin Fan's eyelid twitched, but he said nothing, rubbing the rough ceramic of his cup between his fingers. Xin Chong suddenly stood, grabbed the teapot from the table, and walked over to refill Lin Fan's empty cup. The sound of pouring water echoed clearly through the silent private room. He returned to his seat and leaned forward slightly. Little brother Lin. He lowered his voice, his tone heavy with unshakable sincerity. You saw who I am yesterday. When danger strikes, I will never abandon my teammates. His gaze locked firmly onto Lin Fan. I watched every second of the battle against the soldier ants and the Ant Queen yesterday. Your darts never miss. To be precise, a perfect 100% hit rate, and your armor penetration is absurdly strong. The Ant Queen's thousands of defense meant nothing against your strikes, as if its carapace were paper. Lin Fan's knuckles tightened around his glass. This man had seen everything, not tiny flaws, but his core, game-breaking abilities, fully laid bare. Xin Chong shifted his tone, tapping the table once more. Your secrets are your own. I will never pry, and neither will Xiaodong or Wanqing. On the battlefield, strong teammates make a strong squad. I only care about our team's overall power. I ask no further questions. Yi Wanqing added her agreement. Our sole priority is experience points. Our guild already has surplus basic crafting materials and low-tier resources. We don't care what loot drops from monsters. Lin Fan paused mid-sip. They had laid all their cards on the table. His hidden talents were no secret to them. They simply chose to overlook the details silently. It unsettled him to have his trump cards exposed, yet he grasped a far more critical truth. Now that they knew his abilities, refusing their invitation would be far more dangerous. Randomly assigned to an unknown squad would leave him with zero safety net. Moreover, their party composition fit perfectly: a tank, area control mage, and a dedicated healer. paired with his precision burst damage. For complementary rolls with 0 gaps. He set his glass down with a soft tap. Very well. Lin Fan lifted his head to meet Shin Chong's eyes. I won't turn you down any longer. I'll join your squad. The rigid tension faded from Shin Chong's face. He did not break into a full smile, but his shoulders visibly relaxed with relief. All right. The taut lines on Shin Chong's face softened, a half-smile tugging at his lips. He was clearly much more relaxed. All right. The invisible tension weighing over the private room faded at once. Su Shouting cheered and lifted her fruit juice glass. Should we toast to this? Yi Wanqing raised her wine cup, while Shin Chong grabbed a large teacup. Lin Fan only had plain water before him. May we all stay safe and return alive, Shin Chong said solemnly. Their glasses clinked together, ringing crisply. Now that the atmosphere had lightened, Shin Chong and the others began chatting about guilds, clans, dungeons, and wild ruins. Lin Fan listened quietly, nodding occasionally. This was first-hand experience money could never buy. Halfway through the meal, Shin Chong tapped his chopsticks toward Lin Fan. Brother Lin, tell us your methods for leveling up. Any tricks or troubles you've run into. Spit it out. We'll help if we can, and if not, we can at least offer advice. At his words, the other three turned their gazes to Lin Fan. Su Xiaodang even leaned forward, brimming with curiosity. These geniuses from prominent clans seemed especially fascinated by Lin Fan's unorthodox, self-taught playstyle. Lin Fan smiled faintly. I don't have any fancy tricks. Every day I grind low-level dungeons slaying bears, sell the materials to buy more dungeon tickets, and repeat. Just mindless, repetitive labor. His tone was flat, laced with self-deprecation. He paused, as if a thought had suddenly struck him, and asked casually, by the way, I've been wondering about something. Do any of you know what core crystals are used for? He deliberately avoided mentioning the Queen Mutant Ant Core Crystal, only referencing the common generic term, core crystal. Yi Wanqing wiped her hands with a napkin and picked up the conversation. They have countless applications. Dropped by zone lords and dungeon bosses, they're almost always high-grade crafting materials. Embedded into weapons, they add elemental damage or special effects. Fitted onto armor, they drastically boost specific damage resistances. Ground into fine powder and mixed into potions, they drastically amplify medicinal potency. Their exact power directly depends on their quality tier. She shot Lin Fan a glance. Most crystals circulating on the market are low-tier white grade, mainly used for potions. High-tier crystals are impossible to buy. As Lin Fan listened, his faint, unrealistic hopes faded. Just as he suspected, they were primarily enhancement materials. Shin Chong swallowed his food and spoke abruptly. Brother Lin, if you happen to own a high-quality core crystal, there's another path you could take. Lin Fan set down his chopsticks. Find a master blacksmith. Purify the crystal's energy core and fuse it into dart blanks to forge custom throwing darts, Shin Chong said, picking at his teeth with a toothpick. They carry elemental attacks, double piercing power, and deal far more damage than regular darts. He shook his head. But it's a massive waste. Darts are disposable. 9 times out of 10 you'll never retrieve them after throwing. Wasting such a valuable crystal on throwaway ammo is plain reckless. Easily lost. Lin Fan's grip around his cup remained rock steady. He reined in his surging excitement, forcing his voice to stay calm. If I really wanted to get some made, who's a reliable smith to work with? Shin Chong pulled a gilded card from his inner pocket and slid it across the table. Old Zhang out west, registered with the Blacksmith Association, grade A craftsmanship. He forged my shield and counterweights. His work's flawless, though his fees match the quality. Lin Fan took the card with both hands, glanced at the simple name and number, then tucked it away carefully. Lin Fan spoke even less for the rest of the dinner, merely listening and memorizing every word. It was midday by the time he left the state guest restaurant. They parted ways at the street corner. Shin Chong and the other two headed back to their guild headquarters. Lin Fan did not go home. He cut straight back to the school sports field, dove into a high-level dungeon, and grinded non-stop until nightfall. When he finally stepped out, he rubbed his aching wrists and trudged toward his apartment. Streetlights stretched his shadow long across the pavement. Lin Fan clutched the card tucked in his pocket, his heart thrumming with anticipation as he wondered what would happen if he fused the Queen Mutant Ant Core Crystal into throwing darts. Early the next morning, Lin Fan hopped on his bike. He rode to the Blacksmith Association in the West District, following the address printed on the card. The complex spanned an enormous plot of land, with a full 4-story main building clad entirely in thick charcoal gray armor plating. He scanned the directory board in the ground floor lobby. A strict tiered system governed the premises. The first floor housed all Grade C smiths, its workshops swarming with queuing awakened warriors. The second floor held Grade B artisans, with half as many patrons. The third floor was reserved for Grade A smiths. As for the fourth floor, it was vacant. Lin Fan headed straight up to the third floor. Over 20 workshop rooms lined both sides of the corridor, most unmarked. Only 4 doors glowed with working light. Lin Fan followed the room numbers and stopped in front of the farthest door. He pushed it open. A wave of searing heat washed over him. The workshop spanned several hundred square meters. 3 massive high-temperature furnaces lined the left wall, while the right side was stacked high with or piles, scrap metal, and blueprints. A huge long iron workbench sat dead center of the room. A middle-aged man wearing an oil-stained tank top stood with his back to the door, measuring a steel plate with a caliper. He did not look up at the creak of the door, sliding the caliper off the metal surface. "I'm fully booked today. Head down to the second floor." Lin Fan did not leave. He strode over to the workbench and laid the gilded card beside the steel plate. "Brother Chong sent me." Zhang Kong set down his tools, flipped the card over to examine both sides, then lifted his eyes to size Lin Fan up. "Sent by Shin Chong?" Zhang Kong dragged over an iron chair and sat down, grabbing a rag to wipe his hands. "Take a seat." Lin Fan did not hesitate, pulling out a chair to sit across from him. "Don't take it personally." Zhang Kong tossed the rag aside. "Our trade has strict rules. We won't take commissions from strangers, no matter how much gold they offer. It's not arrogance. Grade A smiths only handle top-tier materials. Unidentified ore and crystals drag us into endless trouble. If Xinchang sent you, you're one of us. What do you need forged?" Lin Fan opened his system inventory. A single tap of his finger. The fist-sized, deep magenta queen mutant ant core crystal materialized on the iron workbench. The air in the room seemed to freeze for a heartbeat. Zhang Kong shot straight up from his chair, palms braced against the table edge. His gaze was glued to the crystal. He swallowed hard, picked it up gingerly, and held it beneath the bright overhead work lamp. "Orange tier. Such pure magenta crystal." Zhang Kang's voice shot up an octave, his hands trembling. What monster nest did Shin Chang's crew raid to get this? This material could craft top-tier armor or a signature weapon to skyrocket your combat power. What are you looking to forge? Trust me, I'll maximize every ounce of energy locked inside this crystal. "Throwing darts," Lin Fan said flatly. Zhang Kong froze, twisting his neck slowly to stare in shock. "Pardon? Throwing darts," Lin Fan repeated. "Disposable weapons for dart specialists. Are you insane?" Zhang Kong slammed his palm on the table, sending wrenches clattering across the metal surface. "Waste an orange tier crystal on throwaway darts? Once you hurl them, you'll never get them back. This is throwing priceless treasure down the drain. You're committing an unforgivable waste of rare materials. I'm a dart specialist. I want a batch of custom darts to save my life in critical battles. Survival comes above all else," Lin Fan replied calmly, spinning a believable excuse. Zhang Kong huffed heavily, staring at the crystal for a long moment before turning his gaze back to Lin Fan. "Fine. Burn your gold if you want. I won't stop you." Zhang Kong sat back down, grabbing paper and a pen to crunch quick calculations. "Judging by this crystal's energy density and volume, we can reinforce a maximum of 70 darts, plus purification labor fees. 1 million star coins per dart. Flat rate, 7 million total." Lin Fan nearly choked on his saliva. 7 million? Lin Fan tapped his fingers against the tabletop. "Master Zhang, your pricing blade is far too sharp. Too expensive?" Zhang Kong let out a cold snort, circling a number on the paper. "You think the crystal alone is enough? Orange tier energy will detonate ordinary scrap metal the second you enchant it. The dart blanks have to be purple grade. A single purple dart sells for at least 300,000 on the trading market, and supply can't meet demand. 70 blanks alone cost 21 million star coins, and that's before accounting for crafting failures. I'm charging 7 million only out of respect for Xinchang." Lin Fan fell silent. 21 million just for the dart blanks. His entire fortune barely topped 6 or 700,000. 7 million star coins was 10 times more money than he owned. The system shop did not even stock purple tier darts. Blue grade was the highest available option. "Forget it." Lin Fan reached out to grab the crystal. "I'll come back once I've saved more funds." Zhang Kong slammed his hand down to pin the crystal in place. He stared at the crystal's mesmerizing glow, his chest tight with greed. For a blacksmith, top-tier materials were addictive. If he let this crystal walk out the door, he would lie awake for days. "Hold on a second." Zhang Kong cleared his throat, his tone softening. "We can negotiate. Since Xinchang's a close friend, you don't have to pay a single coin. I've got a compromise. Lin Fan's hand paused midair. What compromise? This crystal has enough energy for 70 darts. I'll forge 60 for you. The leftover crystal residue stays mine, covering all 7 million crafting fees and the cost of the purple blanks. Zhang Kong stared intently at Lin Fan, waiting for his reply. Lin Fan saw straight through his scheme. The 7 million quote was massively inflated. The old smith could tell he was penniless and planned to pocket the leftover orange crystal material reserved for 10 darts. Trading material for 10 darts in exchange for 60 perfect orange reinforced darts was a good trade. Lacking money and trade connections, he had no other options. Deal, Lin Fan agreed without hesitation. Zhang Kong lit up with delight, yanking the crystal to his chest for fear Lin Fan would backtrack. You're a straightforward man. Come back this exact time in 1 week to pick up your order. A week is too long, Lin Fan shook his head. I'm deploying to the northern front with a squad in a few days. I'll only give you 2 days. 2 days. Zhang Kong jumped to his feet. Purification, cutting, energy infusion, polishing. I won't sleep a wink for 48 hours straight. Lin Fan ignored his complaints and reached again for the crystal. Then scrapped the order. Hand the crystal back. Wait. Zhang Kong scrambled to shield the crystal. 2 days it is. I'll push myself to the brink. Luckily, I have a full set of 60 and used purple-grade Galeflow darts sitting in storage. I'll use those as your blanks. Come back in 2 days for your finished darts. I appreciate your hard work, Master Zhang. Lin Fan pulled his hand away. Don't leave just yet. Zhang Kong grabbed a permanent marker. We need to lock in your enchantment effects before the darts cool and set. Orange tier material unlocks at least 2 top-tier bonus effects. Armor piercing, critical strike, paralysis, bleeding, area explosion. Pick 2. I don't want any of them, Lin Fan said without pause. Zhang Kong thought he'd misheard. No enchantment effects at all. 0 secondary effects. Pour every last drop of the crystal's raw energy solely into base attack power. Leave nothing left over for bonuses, Lin Fan enunciated clearly. Zhang Kang's eyes bulged, staring at Lin Fan as if he'd lost his mind. An orange tier weapon with no special buffs? Are you out of your mind? Pure base attack power is useless against monsters with damage reduction shields. Your shots will be completely neutered. That's my business. Lin Fan stood and brushed dust off his clothes. Just forge them exactly as I asked. I'll return in 2 days. Before Zhang Kong could grumble further, Lin Fan pushed the door open and stepped out of the workshop. What use did he have for flashy bonus effects? His innate talent granted 100 critical strike chance, 100 armor piercing, guaranteed hits, and dart retrieval. Compared to these broken, unbalanced passive rules, all fancy enchantments were worthless garbage. Stacking raw base attack power high enough would create overwhelming, one-sided firepower. After leaving the Blacksmith Association, Lin Fan cycled straight back to the school sports field. Less than 3 days remained until his deployment. His innate talent sat at level 5. He needed nearly 8,000 more monster kills to hit level 6. High-level dungeon, Raging Bear Woods. 50 bears per run. The grind was slow, but no other dungeon offered viable leveling options for him. He paid the entry fee and teleported inside. 30-meter-tall red pine trees filled the dungeon. Before the mutant gray bears could even spot him, swarms of iron-throwing darts whistled toward their bodies. Once every beast in the zone fell, he teleported back outside. He listed all dropped materials on the player trading market and sold them instantly. Then he paid for another dungeon ticket and repeated the cycle for 48 full hours. Lin Fan never returned home, never ate a proper meal. When exhaustion crashed over him, he napped for 30 minutes on the stadium stone steps, then jumped back into the dungeon. On the first day, he slaughtered 2,000 bears. By the second day, the repetitive motion blurred into mindless routine. Lift arm, throw dart, reposition, exit dungeon. His body memorized every single step automatically. By the end of the grind, the sight of bears made his stomach churn. Late evening, the setting sun dyed the entire sports field blood red. Lin Fan stepped out of the purple dungeon portal once more. His legs shook with exhaustion. He leaned against the stadium wall to stay upright. His uniform was soaked through with sweat, then dried stiff, coated in a crust of white salt residue. This grind is pure agony, worse than juggling 3 part-time jobs after school back then. He collapsed onto the concrete ground, gasping for air. He pulled up his character stat panel. Level, LV.18 110,000/1,200,000 EXP. Throwing range, 95 meters. He scrolled down to the talent section at the very bottom. Hidden innate talent, 100 fixed mechanics, LV.57,800/10,000 kills required. Over 2 days, he'd killed more than 4,000 monsters. This was his absolute limit. The high-level dungeon had sparse monster spawns, forcing him to hunt targets actively, drastically cutting efficiency. Still, the school-run dungeons prioritized safety, so he could not complain. He pushed himself upright, bracing his weight on his knees. Time to head home. Tomorrow morning, he would collect his custom throwing darts, and he could only hope they would live up to his expectations.